It looks slow. You're not getting it. You're not punching it in the red zone. Those types of things seem to be magnified when you got a better team and a better defense. Go figure.
I think the biggest concern for me, and there's plenty of blame to go around in this game, whether it's the head coach of Mike McCarthy, the lack of execution offensively that starts with Dak Prescott in this offense, who was not good in this game.
Absolutely
and
not.
No excuses will be made for his play after what happened against San Francisco on Sunday Night Football. My chief concern is that this defense got absolutely torched throughout the course of this game. You gave up 170 yards on the ground in a game where you largely bottled up Christian McCaffrey from a running perspective. 19 carries for 51 yards and an average of 2.7 yards per carry. This is the second game in a row where you've largely held Christian McCaffrey in check, but you still could not stop the run when you needed to most. And more importantly, you let Mr. Irrelevant carve your ass up all day long. The thing that we talked about going into this game is about how this team was in number one in DVOA and passes against the left and passes against the right. Guess what? This team going into the game last night, number 27 in DVOA, defending passes in the middle of the field. Brock Purdy last night, 9 of 14 for 132 yards and a touchdown in the middle of the field. You knew what was coming. You still couldn't stop it, and that is on Dan Quinn and his defense. For the life of me, I could not figure out, Reg, why in the world, why you would have a guy in Micah Parsons as versatile and as multidimensional as he is as a player. You kept lining him up over Trent Williams most of the night when you had a defensive advantage by trying to get after their right tackle, and you, for the most part, did not do it. Trent Williams is the best left tackle in football. Mm-hmm. You're not going to win a lot of matches against him, even with one of the best defensive players in the league, in Micah Parsons. I thought there was a lack of creativity defensively in how they were trying to get after San Francisco, and the lack of execution of it reared its ugly head throughout the course of the night. But the run defense, again, whether it was Arizona and then this time again against San Francisco, was horrendous. And now you have questions about the mentality of them going forward and how they are going to defend teams like Philadelphia, Los Angeles, I'm talking about the Chargers, Buffalo, Miami. You got a really tough schedule against
Miami's
a lot.
Going to be a monster.
Yeah. To deal with. Because that was what you saw, at least for me, yesterday night.
You talked about the middle of the field, and woo boy, this is where we're going to have to contend with the buildup of this roster. We've definitely wildly overrated the ways that they've built this roster, and some of this is the safeties and linebackers for various reasons. The safeties seem like they're playing a little bit down from where they had previously. The linebackers, you are getting injuries, and that's going to be something you have to contend with going further, right?
Mm-hmm.
You depended a lot on the good play of Leighton Vander Esch. Jamon Clark seemed like he was playing pretty solid. Even Marquise Bell has kind of stepped in and tried to give you some linebacker play. You are losing guys and they're dropping like flies, and now the level of play is going to go down simply because you have fewer guys and dudes that are lower on the depth chart. You also are starting to see maybe some slowing down of just like the basic talent, because one of your pet peeves during this game, you kept tapping me on the shoulder like, hey, didn't I tell you? Your man, Stephon Gilmore, who you brought in to be an addition, a big-time addition on this team when it comes to experience, but then also his play. You know, we were kind of amazed as a football-watching public seeing Stephon Gilmore continue to play at his high level at his advanced age last year in Indianapolis. They looked like they were going to try and pick on him when it came to the speed. And, of course, he wasn't the only one. There was other guys that kind of got ran away from at times. But I think that Gilmore ends up being illustrative of the larger point, which is sometimes it just looked like you were a step slow, which was really unfortunate in this game.
Yeah, and I think you saw that quite often, whether it was Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel at times. And then that gets me to the idea that as the rest of the season goes on, you're going to be playing a lot of teams with a lot of speed. We mentioned with Miami, Buffalo, Los Angeles. Those things remain a concern. But then the other chief concern was, for the second time against this team and this defense, Fred Warner made your life a living hell if you were Dak Prescott. And what he was able to do to wreck that football game personally against him, I thought the decision-making at times, there were 4 instances in that game where Dak Prescott has CeeDee Lamb wide open. One of them that I think of immediately is where he tried to hit Brandon Cooks deep down the left sideline, and CeeDee Lamb's running across the deep middle of the field wide open. And Dak Prescott did not see him. It was not able to move the football in that particular way, and getting CeeDee Lamb, who we'll talk about throughout the course of the show too. Because my man's body language yesterday, he was over it during the course of that football game at times by the lack of participation that he had in getting the football from his quarterback.
Well, I mean, this is kind of a different side of a similar coin that we saw with him prior, and I'm trying to remember which game exactly it was. It was a game where he was having some drops, and you saw the ways that it kind of washed over him. He seems to wear his emotions on his sleeve when it gets bad enough, and that was definitely a game where it got bad enough. Funny enough, you mentioned Fred Warner, who is a fantastic player. I felt like Drake Greenlaw was even more of a circus
monster
with the level of speed that he was showing and the awareness, the ways in which he came up and made plays, whether it was in the flats or even coming up and spying Dak Prescott and not allowing him to extend a play. But that comes back to the same thing. Those linebackers were just fantastic in coverage, knowing that you have a front four with the Niners that is capable of wreaking havoc. And then being able to drop those guys into coverage and knowing that you're going to make it absolute hell for the other team. But let's talk about the thing that everybody wants to talk about for whatever reason, right? For every reason in the book, everybody wants to talk about Dak Prescott and his performance in this game. You cannot say anything in defense of a performance that was poor. It was a poor performance from Dak Prescott, point blank, period. Now, where you go from that is very interesting because we've seen people start discussing the idea of Dak Prescott no longer, being who you believe can do this for you. And I guess we can maybe have that larger conversation because we don't have enough time for that right now in the future. How do you feel, just in like a quick, small scale with Dak Prescott? Because in this game, he was not good. I also don't believe that the offense empowers him to be very good, which is tough because that's what we were sold all off seasons, that this offense would empower him to be better. And of course, you did not have as many interceptions you didn't have interceptions in the first few games. You had 3 in this game, 2 of which looked awful.
I'll say it quickly. I feel like I'm trying to keep a level head when it comes to the adjustments that this offense is trying to make with Dak Prescott running this offense under Mike McCarthy versus Mike McCarthy's inability, it appears so far this season at times, to put him in positions to succeed based on the weapons that they have acquired and have, especially with Brandon Cooks, and trying to figure out where is the balance of that and how Dak Prescott improves in terms of what he's seeing on the field based on what Mike McCarthy's helping him see in his play calling, and how does Mike McCarthy, as a play caller, put his team in the best position with his quarterback to accentuate the weapons that he has. And I don't know where I fall on that and who do I assess the more blame to. But based on last night, I blame the quarterback for missing some really open throws with CeeDee Lamb and others to be able to move the football down the field. And for Mike McCarthy, once you see that, okay, he's got to be the one that makes the adjustment based on what his quarterback may or may not be seeing to help him out. Because I felt like no one helped each other out last night. But Dak Prescott, Rain Dakota Prescott, was not good, and he did not play to any kind of standard that you would expect him to play at, given what was on the line tonight. And there is no excuse for his play, and there will be no excuse for his play based on what he did last night.
Yeah, like the 3 interceptions. The first one was the one that he tried to force into Michael Gallup that got tipped out on a slant. Like, why that's something that we saw a lot last year where it's just like, I got to trust this route. He's gonna beat him here.
Well, there were times he looked directly, like he wasn't even going through progress. He would look at a receiver. That's where I'm going with the football. Like there was no reading of, okay, I don't see that open there. Let me make a different decision based on what may be open down the field. And that cost him a couple of times with open receivers, again, particularly CeeDee Lamb in some instances there.
I know for me, I'm really excited to watch the All-22 because what he was looking at is something that I'm desperately wanted to see. And not to say that I'm any level of quarterback whisperer, because I'm not, but the idea that this offense has more true progressions, I feel like it should be more evident. Okay, 1, 2, 3, this is where you need to go. It should be easier to diagnose what was happening there, and I'm intrigued in seeing that. Some of the shots that this team drew up just felt uninspired. And you know what? We'll talk more about it again. There's so much to cover within the course of this game. We're with you to 11, and of course all throughout the week. Although yes, tomorrow we have obviously Rangers baseball that's going to have us out of the way. But one of the things that I've heard spoken about over the course of the last day or so, hey man, this Cowboys offense is starting to look like the latter ends of McCarthy era in Green Bay.
Oh my gosh.
Where teams were talking about how predictable it can be. And that's a very, very bad place to be, especially if you do not believe in Dak Prescott.
Oh boy, that's rough there. Because that's not what I want to hear with this offense looking like anything that was at the end of Mike McCarthy's tenure in Green Bay, because that is yikes. It's the Get Right with Reggie KG right here on 105 through the Fan. More reaction, of course, to what happened yesterday in the destruction in Santa Clara as far as the Cowboys, and they were concerned against the 49ers. But coming up next, though, Levi Weaver of The Athletic, covering all things Major League Baseball, is going to join us to preview Game 3 of the American League Division Series between the Good Guys and the Baltimore Orioles. We do that next on 105 through the Fan.
Keep the volume turned up all day and night. And thanks for being a Tolo. We're DFW Sports Station 105.3 The Fan.
At Diamonds Direct, our experts go the extra mile to ensure
at your specific requirements and your budget.
Schedule an appointment by visiting Mr. Electric Dallas or MrElectricFortWorth.com. They have the power to make things better.
Imagine if you could charge your electric vehicle at the places you already love to eat, shop, and play. Whether you're at the movies, on your weekly grocery trip, or running errands at your local mall, Volta EV charging stations are built around your day-to-day and located in your community and nationwide. All you have to do is check in, plug in, and go about your day. It's EV charging made convenient. Download the Volta app to find your new favorite place to charge.
It's a Cowboys Monday, brought to you by Twin Peaks and K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing on 105.3 The Fan.
This segment of the Get Right is brought to you by Frankel & Frankel. Life is unpredictable. Accidents happen. Frankel & Frankel are the go-to attorneys for car and truck wrecks in DFW. If you or a loved one has been in an accident, contact Frankel & Frankel for a free consultation at truckwreck.com or call 214 or 817-333-3333.
It's the Get Right with Reggie KG right here on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula, Ross Levinsky holding it down for you here. Really appreciate you joining us on Odyssey and the Odyssey app, the truckwreck.com text line, 877-881-1053. If you want to get in on the conversation coming up in 14 minutes, we'll go around the National Football League on this Monday night as the Green Bay Packers visit the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders up 10-3 right now in that Monday night game as Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing a touchdown pass for the Raiders to have them up 10-3. Right now, though, we go to the Boomer Jacks Bar and Grill Hotline where we welcome in one of our favorites here on the Get Right with Reggie KG. He is the newsletter writer for the MLB, for The Athletic. It's called The Wind Up. And you can find him on Twitter at 32EFIS. He is, of course, Levi Weaver. Levi, what's going on?
Man, I am still just sitting here with my jaw on the floor after that play to end the Braves-Phillies game. Did you guys happen to see that while you were radioing?
Okay, so Zach Wheeler had a no-hitter through, 6 at that point? Okay,
so this the play that I'm talking about. Braves take a one-run lead. It's the ninth inning. Bryce Harper's on first base. There's one out. And, oh, my gosh, who even hit it? I don't know. Somebody from the Phillies hits the ball to the wall in center field. Michael Harris Jr., the second, or however he prefers to be called, sprints back, jumps, catches the ball at the wall. Harper is absolutely certain that the ball is not going to be caught, so he's almost to second base. Harris throws the ball back in. It evades two Braves infielders, but Harper's still so far away. He's like hustling to get back. Sure enough, they throw him out at first base. Double play. Game is over. Braves win.
I'm looking at it right now. It was Nick Castellanos who hit it.
Of course it was. Why would it be anyone else?
Of course it would be Nick Castellanos for sure.
If somebody had just tried to apologize for some bad news about 3 seconds earlier, that ball would have cleared the wall.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's rough.
Unbelievable.
So
yeah.
I mean, maybe if you guys had me on earlier, I could have been the one apologizing because last time we talked, I first of all made a mistake about who the Rangers would play in the next round, which was embarrassing. But I also said I didn't think anybody was going to be able to beat the Baltimore Orioles in the American League. And your Texas Rangers currently up 2-0 going back home to play the Orioles. Holy cow, guys.
Yeah, along those lines, I will give you some credit. You did not, even though I gave you plenty of opportunities, you did not damn the Rangers, understanding the power this offense possessed. But did we possibly, and I'll speak for myself, did I possibly over or undervalue the influence of having guys that have been here before in the postseason in the ways that the Rangers went and got guys that have done that on the in their lineup? And then you look at the Rays and the Orioles and them not necessarily having that same type of experience.
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't put a whole lot of weight in that. First of all, the Rays have been to the playoffs like every year for the last decade or so. The Orioles do have a lot of young guys, and that's true, but it's not like, there have been some walks, but it hasn't really seemed like the Orioles have played sloppy or played scared or never been any like major faux pas that I've seen that I'm like, oh yeah, young guys, they're tight, they're not ready for this. They played okay, It's just the Rangers have played better, and their offense has been an absolute monster. So I don't know. I mean, sure, maybe there's something to be said for that, but I don't think that's like the defining difference that we've seen in the first two games. I think the difference has been, first of all, the Rangers' offense has been so good. The pitching has been just good enough. I mean, game one, we saw the Rangers up one, and all of a sudden it's the ninth inning, and we've watched the Orioles come from behind so many times this year, and we've watched the Rangers just rack up the come-from-ahead losses this year, and you're like, well, I think I've seen this play out before. I think I know where this is going. No, they held the lead. They got the win. The Rangers have just played good baseball, and they were probably the streakiest team in baseball in the second half, and I kind of thought, we'll see. If they can get on a hot streak in the playoffs, it could be very good for them. So far, so good. They've been on quite a hot streak.
Levi, in Major League Baseball, it tends to seem when we get to playoff time that the wild card team, for some reason, can find a way to go on a run. I think about the 2002? Was it the Angels in 2002? Of course, they won the World Series over the San Francisco Giants. I could have the year wrong, but the idea being wild card teams tend to get in these situations and find a way to just get hot and win these things. Can you fashion seeing the Rangers being a team that could be one of those teams that does that this year?
They could. I'm certainly not going to put that past them. They've got the offense to do it. The starting rotation is interesting to me, right? Because there's no DeGrom, there's no Scherzer, there's no John Gray right now. Maybe Scherzer could be back next round, maybe Gray could be back next round, but rotation's a little bumpy. But my goodness, whose rotation isn't bumpy, right? I'm watching the Dodgers down 3-0 right now because they've got basically, the desiccated corpse of Clayton Kershaw and a bunch of rookies pitching for them. So yeah, they absolutely could. I mean, that offense is good enough to do that if the bullpen can just piece it together. Then yeah, I can see that. We saw the Phillies go to the World Series last year. They were a wild card team. If I'm not mistaken, weren't the 2011 Cardinals a wild card team? Or is that verboten where we're not supposed to talk about that on Dallas radio, are we?
I mean, it's already happened.
It's already happened.
Look, man, the vibes are immaculate, so don't worry.
That's
about
right.
it.
Okay, all right. So yeah, to answer your question, yes. Could they? Absolutely. Will they? I mean, what do I know? I didn't think they were going to beat the Rays, so I'm just kind of along for the ride at this point.
And yes, Anaheim, they were the wild card team back in 2002 when they won 99 games and, of course, beat the San Francisco Giants in that epic World Series.
Yeah, actually, along those lines, like being a really good team and then kind of seeing it go wild, we've seen that the Orioles are down 2 games. Obviously, outside of just like the Braves being one of the most hittingest teams of all time, they look like they were in that place. How odd is it? I mean, or is it just something where you go, that's baseball in the postseason, to have these teams that have obviously gotten all these wins and have played so well, kind of have their number called by teams that you would look up and anticipate should not play this well against them?
The team I always go back to for this scenario is the 2001 Mariners, who won more games than anybody in history and did not even make it to the World Series. Baseball is such a long season that teams that win that many games, they do so because they are just consistently very good. But it's such a crapshoot, right? Like, especially these 3 and 5 game series, when you try and match up, this team was good over 162 games. That team was, a little bit less good over 162 games. None of that really matters. It's like, who's going to win the first 3 games? And it's such a crapshoot that I really think that's all you can chalk it up to. And, Ken Rosenthal had an interesting story today about how should we take a look at the format. We're seeing these teams that are the favorites that have had the time off kind of get boat raced in the first game of the series. Fair enough. I mean, we can take a look at that, but I really just think there could be some. I probably should have looked this up so I would have a really good example, but I'm sure that the Braves at some point in June or July got beaten in a series by, I don't know, the Pirates or the Cubs or some team that didn't even make the playoffs. And we blew it off. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's who cares? They're still going to go to the playoffs. They're still going to be the best team going into the playoffs. But it just goes to show, like, that can happen in baseball. It does happen in baseball all the time. And it just, now we're just watching it with a whole lot of extra added pressure because it's the playoffs.
Levi Weaver of The Athletic MLB joining us here on the Get Right with Reggie KG here on 105 through the Fan. So let's turn our attention to tomorrow's game. How do you see tomorrow's game playing out? Nathan Eovaldi taking the mound for the Texas Rangers and what they will look to do to try and sweep Baltimore on their way to the American League Championship Series.
And that's the guy you want on the mound, right? Like, of everybody that's left, that is absolutely the guy you want. He didn't look great in the regular season when he came back, but I really didn't give that a whole lot of credence because he didn't throw a rehab assignment. He didn't go down and pitch, 2-3 innings against Frisco hitter or whoever Frisco was playing. He jumped straight back on the deep end. Didn't look great, but he was coming back. But man, that a little stronger each time. Got to full speed right in time for the playoffs, and man, he looked good against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are a great offense, and he made them look silly at times. So if the Rangers are going to do it, I think now's the time, because if they don't win tomorrow, I have my answer for this, who I think it's going to be, and I, full disclosure, was not paying attention during the Rangers media day today, so this actually may have been announced. But who's your Game 4 starter? It's not Jordan Montgomery. He just went. It's not Heaney or Dunning. They both piggybacked in Game 1. Evaldi's starting tonight. Is it Martin Perez? Is that your Game 4 starter?
Oof.
Oh, boy.
I have no idea. And if that's the case, let's play this out. Even if you do win, is that the biggest concern that the Rangers then face going into 7-game series in what could be a ALCS or even maybe a World Series run?
Well, yes and no. I think that all depends on if Max Scherzer, who seems to think that he's got a path back to being on the roster the next round, is he going to be back? Is John Gray going to be back by then? If you get those two guys back, you can breathe a little easier. Of course, Scherzer, maybe a similar situation to what we saw with Evaldi. Maybe he's a 3-inning guy, his first outing back. So who knows? It'd be nice to get, maybe Scherzer and Gray piggyback and each of them pitch 3 or 4 innings. But it just depends on if those guys are back. But yeah, if neither of them are back, going into a 7-game series, you basically got Montgomery, Evaldi, and then you pray and you hope that God answers your prayers, that, Andrew Heaney continues to pitch the way that he has, and Dane Dunning can, come in out of the bullpen after him or something like that. But like I said, every team is kind of in that situation, right? The Diamondbacks have Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen, and a whole lot of mess after the Braves. Watching them, they have Max Fried and Spencer Strider. After that, I don't know, Bryce Elder maybe, and after that, everybody is just decimated in their rotation right now. So it's not unique to the Rangers.
It should be one hell of a scene tomorrow night at Globe Life Field when the Rangers take on the Baltimore Orioles. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and the Rangers apparently have coalesced towards the end of the season and into the postseason around Creed. Levi. if I forced you to give me a favorite Creed song and or lyric.
Thank you, good night. Which is what they say at the end of the concert. It means the show's over and we don't have to listen anymore.
Wow. Way to not play into the game.
Levi is not here for your Creed talk, okay? Wow.
No, I texted Jared Sandler. I'm like, Jared, why are you doing this? Because Jared's the one that kind of brought this to the forefront and is telling everybody, oh, look at that Creed. Like, Jared, shut up. Do not do this. There are better ways to, every team needs its postseason thing. Something else, anything else. Do not do this. To me personally, do not do this. No, I hate it. We are not rejoicing in that. You guys can have fun with it. By all means, I'm going to opt out.
I mean, look, he's just being a good reporter and talking about what is taking the Rangers.
Oh, wow.
No, Creed. Here's I like Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam's fine, but Pearl Jam has a lot to answer for the bands that they inspired, and there are a lot of them. All of whom and Creed is chief among them. Say some words. Say your words.
Say your words, I think, is the best place to lead this interview. Levi, we appreciate you as always, especially with your Creed hate.
Yes, that was great, Levi. Thank you so much.
By the way, that was my favorite Creed lyric. I did initially answer the question. My favorite Creed lyric is...
Get out of here, Levi. Get out of here, man. I appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll see you guys.
There he goes, Levi Weaver of The Athletic, writer of the MLB newsletter, The Wind Up. Good enough to join us here on the Get Right. Coming up next here on our fine program, we go around the National Football League. Oh boy, injuries devastating around the league, including one for your Cowboys. We detail it next on 105.3 The Fan.
Coming up on the next KNC Masterpiece, we got all things baseball covered for you.
there was an ad for My Computer Career, and it just spoke to me.
My Computer Career was the best decision he ever made.
I could study anywhere from my laptop, and I was working in the first couple weeks of me being in class.
Reggie hit a home run.
The field is teeming with jobs.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
The school is amazing.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
Hi, I'm Colby, owner of Colbert Garage Door and proud partners of the Texas Rangers. Call us today for your free estimate at 469-909-0956 or visit us at colbertgaragedoor.com.
It's out of here. Bye-bye.
Turn it on. Leave it on. Your home of the Rangers. 105.3 The Fan.
About to go around the National Football League here on the Get Right with Reggie KG here on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin McGray, Reginald Atatula.
Yep.
Ross Lubinsky holding it down for you here. Really appreciate you joining us on Odyssey and the Odyssey app, the truckwreck.com text line 877-881-1053, 877-881-1053.
Where we appreciate you giving your opinions, no matter what they are, as long as you're not spamming it. That's all I ask. That's all I ask.
Yeah, that's all we ask. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports, at Reg Atatula if you want to get him on Twitter as well. Coming up at the top of the hour, was this loss for the Cowboys a speed bump, a wake-up call, or a bigger omen to something bigger later on this year? We'll have that conversation at the top of the hour among a lot of things. Because y'all, look, if one thing Cowboys Nation knows how to do.
Dak Prescott!
Woo! Dak Prescott.
Not just Cowboys Nation, man. This
everybody.
National media.
Nasty
we all
word.
in here.
What did I tell you yesterday as we were watching the game, as the game unfolded? I said the national media conversation this week when it comes to this team is going to be real nasty work. And your boy Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp.
They're going to get after it.
Got after it.
But here's the tough thing, right? Like, again, Dak Prescott has his responsibility.
Yes.
It feels this game was so much of a complete and thorough butt whooping that it just seemed like there's so many different pieces to talk about.
Oh, man.
And that's the only thing I don't like is I feel like we get very narrow in the ways that we talk about that. And look, I get it, man. But, there's so much there.
Let's go around the NFL here on the Get Right, and we start with my favorite NFL correspondent. Let's start with the Vikings. They've got a real problem potentially coming up with their wide receiver in Justin Jefferson, as he may be missing some time because he is dealing with a hamstring.
If you're just going to do the report, why are you throwing it to?
Well, because he has more detail on it. Yeah,
here he goes.
Can we get that one? Ian Rappaport talking about.
See, look, we don't even need to play it.
No, I want them to hear my personal NFL correspondent Ian Rappaport discussing Justin Jefferson.
See, look at you.
Oh, Ian doesn't want to talk. Huh?
That's look.
It's really a bad sign. Justin Jefferson, maybe the best receiver in the NFL. If you are the Vikings, you have to make absolutely sure that everything going on with your star player is done perfectly, is checked and double checked and triple checked. Hard to imagine a more important player to a team he is a great player. So yes, he is getting tests on his hamstring. He's getting a second opinion. He is getting a report. Based on my understanding, it seems like a stretch that he'd be able to be on the field for the Vikings this week. That seems like, based on my knowledge, to be a long shot. It is unclear after that when we will see Justin Jefferson on the field. Still waiting for the report. Still trying to see what does the future hold for the Vikings superstar.
Oh, boy. That's not good. Because what's the Minnesota Vikings offense these days?
Justin down there somewhere.
He down there somewhere. Throw it to him.
Because, I mean, they traded for Cam Akers, but if I remember correctly, that hasn't really looked incredible thus yet. It may be just more time to integrate and, see it flourish, I guess. I mean, they played Kansas City decently well. You have anything to say on that in that regard?
Yeah, I do. Real quick, I don't know if you saw the challenge yesterday. So Travis Kelce made a hell of a grab. Like, he made it over the shoulder grab, fell and took it to the ground. And Kevin O'Connell decided to challenge the catch. And at this point, they had already burned a timeout. I believe this is in the third quarter. Had already burned the timeout. and he decided to challenge the call. And I'm like, if this is not the worst challenge I have ever seen in my life, and confirmation that, this is the most unserious team in all the NFL. Kevin O'Connell and his team continue to prove that.
I feel like there was an even worse challenge this weekend. I can't remember.
Oh, really?
What
There was
game
an even worse
in.
one than that?
Yeah, someone challenged a catch, but there was a penalty on that would have given them the first down either way.
What?
So it was like, why are you challenging? I'll go find it. Don't worry about it. Let me go find it.
Speaking of injuries, this is a big one for the Miami Dolphins. Devon Achane is undergoing evaluation for a knee injury, according to Black Mike McDaniel. The severity of the injury is yet to be determined, as McDaniel declined to say whether the rookie would miss time or was undergoing an MRI. Of course, he suffered the injury during Sunday's victory over the G-Men, although the coach declined to specify exactly what occurred. Of course, Achane ran for $151 on 11 carries, his third straight game with at least 100 yards rushing and a touchdown for that potent Miami Dolphin offense.
Yeah, man, they just have a ton of speed on that team, and they do a great job of getting that speed into places to succeed. It really is just coaching when it's brought down to a T. Is like the idea of, hey, you want to have, the Jimmies and Joes, and then match the X's and O's with what they do well, and then profit. And outside of that Bills game, that's what you've seen from that offense.
Other big-time injuries from Week 5. The Jets lose their top offensive lineman as Elijah Vera Tucker. He is done for the season with a torn Achilles, and he will miss the rest of the season after tearing that Achilles against the Denver Broncos. So it is the second straight season-ending injury for Vera Tucker. And guess what? They both happened in Denver. So he tore his triceps last October in the second quarter of the Jets' victory over the Broncos. And now this year tears his Achilles in a win in Denver over the Broncos. So unfortunately for the former 2021 first-round pick, he will not be around for the rest of the year as the Jets improve to 2-3 after getting the win over the Denver Broncos. So another devastating. What's up with them and Achilles this year?
There's been a ton of bad injuries this week. Just look, man, football. It really is.
Well, the Jets and Achilles specifically.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
I know some people start talking about grass surfaces and stuff. I know.
Yeah.
Where's David Bakhtiari to get his issue off on that regard? And yes, thank you, Swaggy Booties. It was Saints Patriots, where your man Dennis Allen was like, "Let me throw this flag." It's like, you realize they're gonna get a first down out of the way, whether it's a catch or not. It's okay. It's cool.
And they still won that game 34-0.
They smoked them.
Well, we may get to Bill Belichick at some point later on this week because they look broken in New England. That thing looks broken for Bill Belichick and that Patriot team. Speaking of broken, I hate to. I won't do that injury.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
segue there.
I won't do that one because we'll wait on the other one. Because for all those who thought I was going to talk about Leighton Vander Esch, I'll wait on that one. Matt Milano. Now this one is devastating. Matt Milano. Yeah, he's going to be sidelined indefinitely, along with defensive tackle Daquan Jones, both suffering injuries against the London Jaguars on Sunday. Milano's got a leg injury, and Jones got a pectoral injury. Both of them will have surgery, Sean McDermott said today. It has not been determined whether either player will be sidelined for the season, but two really big injuries, especially for a defense in Buffalo that's been really good so far this year.
Not just that, it's been good in large part because of Matt Milano. Right, Matt Milano was the best player in that game that they played against the Miami Dolphins. The ways in which that he was showing up all over the field and in coverage also. That dude was huge when it came to that game and when it comes to that defense. That's a huge loss for them.
And this comes just a week after, of course, their starting corner Tre'Davious White suffered, guess what? An Achilles season-ending injury. So yeah, Buffalo's going through it right now in terms of some of their injuries to their best players.
Yeah, and I saw that there was a complaint by one unnamed Buffalo Bills player when they played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium there in London. They basically said, why the bleep did we fly our way to London to play on concrete? And I guess they were not feeling the artificial surface that they played upon.
Oh, boy.
Like, I do wonder, and again, this is the tough thing when it comes to the players because their union has not been able to extract really anything major in negotiations for, their contracts. I wonder if they're going to make this a priority for themselves because I don't think the league is going to do this out of the goodness of their heart. You're going to need to go and, try and enforce some level and use your leverage as a union to try and get some level of additional safety measures when it comes to fields. I'm interested to see if they make that a priority and how they would be able to do that because, again, we see the way that these negotiations typically go and they don't often go in favor of the players.
And also, if I'm the Buffalo Bills, and I think some of this was talked about during the course of the week leading up to the game and definitely after the game. So the Jaguars got to spend 2 weeks in London, and you could tell during the first half of the game, it looked like Buffalo was sleepwalking because, of course, Jacksonville has already played a game in London the week before. They got to stay there for another week and to play another game. So they spent the last 2 weeks there. Meanwhile, Buffalo had to make, as you mentioned, that long travel, play on that surface, and then have to deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, of course, were able to win that game yesterday. So I thought it was a little unfair that a team got to spend both weeks in London while you get to make the other team, travel for that.
You talking about unfair. They not trying to hear none of that. Did the check cash, right? Like, this is the thing. Money machine go burr, right? Like, that's what the NFL is talking about. They do not want to hear nothing about you being tired, nothing about you being asleep. Look, man, there's so many different areas where we can point to the league and be like, hey, that's probably not a best practice if you actually want to see the best level of football. But they've long committed to the idea they don't give a damn about the best level of football because y'all going to watch any of this football anyways. They're trying to make the best level of money. That's always the framework.
I mean, I definitely agree. But, if you're talking about having a level playing field, make both them teams travel on the same week to London instead of having one getting able to camp out there in their home city for, 2 weeks in that way. But
got to get 2 games off, baby. Get that European money.
They'll be back in Germany in November. When they get to send the best team in the NFL. Well,
get them Euros. Bring them to the stadium.
That's your trip around the National Football League here on Get Right. I didn't want to do the whole, speaking of broken, the latent.
You kind of half did it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm glad you reeled it in.
Yeah, I did because, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to do that to that man. Sorry to that man.
Injuries, they're bad. They happen a lot in football.
For the Niners 1-2. The Bills could have gone over sooner. How? They had a game the past week.
Bobo? I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand what the conversation is at this point.
Them having to go to London, while Jacksonville was there for 2 weeks in their home, alternate home. Whatever.
Money machine go burr.
Coming up next, was the Cowboys loss a speed bump, a wake-up call, or a bigger omen for later on this year? Next on the Get Right.
The Fan continues to grow because of you, our listener teammates. Thank you for turning it on and leaving it on. 105.3 The Fan.
home program. Your life change could start today at Soda. Wait for it, state of the art.
This is the exclusive home of Dallas Cowboys football. KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas, Fort Worth. Let's go, Cowboys.
Always live on the free Odyssey app. From our fan studio secured by DFWsecurity.com, it's time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
Hour number 2 of the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
Yes, sir.
Ross Levinsky holding it down for you here. Appreciate you joining us on Odyssey and the Odyssey app, the truckred.com text line 877-881-1053. Was the Cowboys lost a speed bump, a wake-up call, or a bigger omen for something else later on this season? Let us know on the truckred.com text line 877-881-1053. We are with you until 11 o'clock tonight here. Coming up in 17 minutes, NFL Week 5's overreactions or not, based on what happened in a wild weekend of NFL action. Speaking of NFL action, it is currently 10-10 right now on Monday Night Football between the Green Bay Packers and the Las Vegas Raiders, as Jimmy Garoppolo, coming back from the concussion that he suffered, 14 of 21 for 141 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jordan Love, not great tonight, 8 of 13, 59 yards, and a pick. But it is 10-10.
Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo throwing for almost as much yards as Dak. That's nice.
What are you doing? Is that okay? You starting?
I'm just happy for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Act like me is what you're doing. A.J. Dillon, 5-yard carry for the touchdown, ties the game at 10 to cap off an 8-play, 37-yard drive in 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Unfortunately, in this game, no Aaron Jones for the Green Bay Packers. Devontae Adams, though, did play.
Yeah.
And is playing in this game.
A.J. Dillon made sure to run fairly well. He's already rushed for a touchdown, so he's doing what he needs to.
Good for him. Good for him. Oh, boy, the destruction that was Santa Clara last night on Sunday Night Football. Again, shout out to Old 75 Beer Garden. Reg and I had the chance to hang out with the Cowboys Nation and Tolos yesterday. Had a lot of fun being able to meet y'all, hang out with you for some good food, some good times, and unfortunately not good football this time around.
Well, I mean, for the Niners, it was good football.
Well, I mean, but we don't care about them in that way.
Okay.
You know, it was all about the Cowboys, you know. It is what it is.
Look, man, the way that the Cowboys talked for weeks heading into this game, they cared a lot about
cash
the
money, boy.
You talk about the idea of
cash.
They said this was a measuring stick, and ultimately now we need to see how did you measure up. And so I found this to be very interesting because they looked very, very small in a lot of aspects. And that really brought me to the question, okay, now that game is over, like you have to do some level of moving on. Obviously, we could talk about we're talking about the big picture here. But like you mentioned this in the text line and a few things like, look, man, you've got games to play. Like that's the tough part about this. Last year, at least, end of the season, all right, now we can put this all in perspective. We can do that and put it in perspective, but also like you got a game next week. You got a game in a week, literally a week's time. And you've got another game after that. And you've got Thanksgiving, and you have a whole bunch of football that you still remains to be played. So is this a game that people see as, all right, well, that happened, and now you can move on and maybe still be a good team? Because I don't think this is a bad team still. Or is this a game that's like, all right, this is indicative of a lot of things? Is this where it's like, all right, some big things need to change? Or is this all right, this thing might be over, right? Because you have a window that you brought in Mike McCarthy to try and capitalize on. And I think there's some people that are looking around and like, you know what? That window is no longer available. And so I'm interested in seeing how people view this.
Stephen Jones, how did you feel about last night's loss and how humbling it was against the San Francisco 49ers?
Well, obviously a very difficult game. I mean, you got to start hats off to the 49ers. They came in and played well in all three phases and unfortunately really, kicked our butt in all three phases. And certainly was a game that you don't put it on, you overlooked it or anything like that. We all knew how big the game was, and they just came in and they out-executed us. And, unfortunately right now we're a team that's very up and down, inconsistent. And, if we're going to be the type of team we want to be, we've got to come in and week out and play with consistency. And certainly yesterday it was anything but that. And we just, from start to finish, we didn't play well in any phase, and consequently the results. But no question, a very, as Dak said, I think I read a humbling loss, and one that, there's a lot of football left. We got to get back to the drawing board and continue to work at bringing more consistency to our game. But certainly offensively, Shanahan had a plan and, did a great job against our defense. And offensively, we didn't execute and we didn't make plays. And certainly that's not a good recipe when you're playing a great football team like the 49ers.
Stephen Jones on the KNC Masterpiece today, reacting to that loss last night. And there was a word in there that he used that describes how I feel about this question that we're discussing here. And that word is consistency. Because how consistent can this team be when you see the wild swings that we've seen so far this year? Are they the team that put a beat down on the New England Patriots 38-3? Or are they the team that gave up 222 yards on the ground rushing to Josh Dobbs, James Conner, and the Arizona Cardinals? Or are they the team that absolutely destroyed the New York Giants and the New York Jets to begin the season? Or are they the team that got their ass whooped by a team that they thought that they were going to be up to play, having lost to them each of the last two postseasons in the San Francisco 49ers? Because right now, I don't know who the hell they are. Because the wild inconsistencies that this team displays, I don't know how that bodes well going forward for the rest of the year. So for me, is it an omen? Is it a wake-up call? Is it a speed bump? Yes.
All of them?
It's all of it.
Dang.
Because if you can't emotionally pick yourself up after what just happened this past Sunday night in San Francisco and then go back out on the West Coast and beat a team that's licking its chops, looking at this defense against Arizona and San Francisco, if you're Kellen Moore, and find a way to get a road win on Monday night, I don't know where this thing goes, because you've got to find a way to win to get this thing back on track, knowing how difficult the rest of your schedule is going to look forward the rest of the year. So for me, the answer is yes. It's all of them, because they have to respond next Monday night.
All right, so this is the tough thing. I think it's absolutely a wake-up call, right? Obviously, it's more than a speed bump. Like, this ain't just, well, we're just going to keep on trucking. You got handled in front of company.
Yes.
Right? You got embarrassed in front of company. Like, you don't just get to walk away from that one, right? It's definitely a wake-up call. And look, offensively, I think that's a big wake-up call. There was a lot of please cop. And look, I'll say that I allowed them to cop some of these pleas too, on the idea that, well, there's more in the back pocket. This is when you're supposed to unload it, right? Y'all made it clear that this is a big time, and y'all did not unload it. So, all right, y'all ain't got it. Is how I have to treat this. So you need to wake up and decide and figure out how you make this offense more tangible, right? Man, we didn't want to get these interceptions. You got those interceptions, and you still didn't give this offense. So what now, right? Defensively, the thing that scares me is that, look, man, obviously we understand the immense capability that the Niners have, particularly attacking the middle. But you don't think the teams are now going to look at that and say that's how we get to this team and attack them over the middle? Like, I am very intrigued because I think the pass rush will still come along, and maybe that's all it is. If you don't have the pass rush, the back end is not strong enough to hold up on their own, so the pass rush needs to be there. Maybe that's what it is. But the tough thing is the bigger omen issue. Is like, are we talking about this is an issue where the head coach is not a right fit, where the quarterback is not the right fit, where your talent is maybe not in the right place to be able to sustain over a long period of time, where this isn't a retool and it might need to start getting towards a rebuild? That's the place where I'm starting to look at. And that's the scary thing, because if that's the case, you are not really well positioned to undertake that. With all the concerns I think a lot of people have about the decision makers in play, if they have to chart a whole new direction as opposed to try and retool the game plan that they've put out right now, ooh boy, I don't know. I don't know that there are many people that have confidence in this team to do that. And so that's the thing that scares me, because again, bad teams don't go out and handle the bad teams that they've played, right? Like, typically good teams will handle the bad teams, and they did that. So I don't think they're a bad team, but they are not on the level of the highest of this league. And I think that's where you need to be in order to get to where the baseline for success is for this team. We've talked about it time and time again. If you were just talking about having a good team, all right, cool, you could kick it, right? Good teams lose to great teams sometimes. You're trying to be a great team. And I'm starting to have a hard time, and I guess starting to is probably not the right way. I'm having a hard time seeing the path to being a great team after that ass whooping.
You've got to find a way to pick yourself up. And to the point of what this team for the future looks like based on what they may have or what they don't have at quarterback and the pieces that are surrounding that particular player. Because if you're going to go down the route, let's just go down the route. If you wanted to move off of Dak Prescott, that will require this team deciding that it's not going to be actively good for a stretch of time that will allow you to get the kind of quarterback, Caleb Williams, that you would want to have.
Caleb Williams ain't in your realm.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you're not going to be bad enough this year. Obviously, the likes of a Caleb Williams in the future. I feel you, though.
Correct. You're not. This organization, I believe, will not put themselves in that position to be bad enough to go through a full rebuild in that way. If that is the case, then how do you surround the quarterback that you have? Or if you move off of Dak Prescott, what quarterback are you looking for that can fit the current head coach that you have and the offense that he wants to run?
I don't know. I don't think – look.
Which gets to another question. Is Mike McCarthy the guy to be the future to run your organization based on what you have currently or maybe what you want to build in the future? All of those things I still think are a little premature based on the amount of games that you've got left for the rest of this regular season. Okay. You still got 12 games left to get this figured out. You may not be on the level of San Francisco at the moment.
You think you have an opportunity? Okay, that's fair, right? You're not there yet, and of course, this is not test-taking time. Obviously, this is let's call this a quiz on the road, but ultimately, test-taking time will come. How do you what's the remediation plan to get you to the place where you're like, I will be prepared for this test? Because like the tough thing about it is the thing that scared me the most, and I know a lot of people have seen this as well. The ways that this offense has looked, is particularly in that game, are reminiscent of the worst time in Mike McCarthy's time in Green Bay, where you're talking about, sluggish individual type offense when it comes to the routes that do not help your offense.
Uninspired
and then also,
running game.
Uninspired running game. That's another thing. Like Tony Pollard, we understand is a good running back. All of his averages are down this year. Like touches, yards per carry, yards per reception. All those things are down. And I don't think that that's inherently just because he has had some level of change, right? Like, is Mike McCarthy capable of fixing all those things while also fixing other stuff, right? Like, remember we came into the season and was like, all right, one of the things that I think is interesting is that offense will now give us a place where we could judge Mike McCarthy, because being a walk-around CEO type head coach, it's hard for us on the outside to judge what makes you good, right? And typically we talk about like discipline and all those things, which, hey, not always the greatest with this Cowboys team under Mike McCarthy.
Against the 49ers in particular.
But then the offense is grading out kind of poorly. That's when I'm starting to look at Mike McCarthy and going, ooh. But that's fair. Look, man, we'll wait to have that discussion in full. But as of right now, it needs improvement.
Because here's where I go with this, and we've got a long way to go to get there. But if you look at the schedule, let's just have the hypothetical real quick. You play the Chargers next week. Let's say you go on the road, you beat the Chargers and beat Kellen Moore in the revenge game, yada, yada, yada. Then you come home against the Rams, and then you go against the Eagles. You're going to beat down the Giants here on November 12th. You should be able to. You play the Panthers. That should be a win. You go on the road to play on the Commanders. You should beat them. Seahawks, that's a toss-up. But if you get to that stretch where you beat the Eagles at home.
You feel good about that one?
No, I'm just saying if you do.
Okay.
If you beat the Eagles, Bills, and Dolphins.
And? Okay.
Again, this
Sorry,
I'm hypothetical.
My bad.
Roll with me.
I'm jumping off sides like the Cowboys sometimes.
That's right, just like last night. If you beat those three teams, let's say you take two out of those three games. Let's say you beat Buffalo and you beat Miami on the road. What does the perception of that team look like based on what we believe Buffalo and Miami is right now, and what that could do to change how you feel about this team? Again, we're a long ways away from that, and it's hard to talk about that based on what happened last night. That's why I say, okay, there's 12 games left.
Yeah.
Horrendous loss.
Bad.
Pick yourself up, win a game on Monday night, get that good feeling back in terms of what you're capable of doing, and then let's roll from there, and then continue to evaluate this team based on what they have and what they don't have, and what that means for them going into the playoffs if they are able to get there in that way.
But yeah, that's now you're on notice.
You are completely on notice now because you've been exposed. Offense, defense, special teams, you're exposed in all three areas and not in a good way at all.
And before we move on, I just do want to, like, the insult to injury was not just that you played very poorly and you took knocks for it. Because, look, and it's not like this has gone under discussed. Leighton Vander Esch had been playing. He played really great last year, and he playing fairly well for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a dude who you're probably going to miss for about a month, if not a little bit more. You were already light.
Maybe even longer.
You were already light in that linebacker place. And that was the place that team was attacking you at.
Yes.
Right? Linebacker factors into one of the things that you spent the offseason trying to address when it comes to run defense. Like, is this going to be an issue? And then also, and maybe this isn't a thing I should bring up because I'm just lighting things on fire, maybe.
Oh, go ahead. They got themselves lit on fire last night.
The one time that I noticed Mozzie Smith while watching this football game, he was getting ragdolled.
There was a lot of that going on last night.
Sure, I guess I shouldn't single him out, but that's the thing that feels really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it felt, and
this draft class hasn't been great.
This feels real tough to, like, you're talking about, okay, well, maybe you could pick yourself up. There's still games that are of big import. And I'm like, you got worse if not for no other reason than you're losing guys, which happens in football. But, like, if you at mostly good strength are having this level of outcome against one of the great teams in this league, I have some trepidation as we move forward. And look, ultimately they're gonna have to get on the field and show us. But I'm not operating from a place of confidence anymore.
Which is why if I'm going to pick one of these, it's a wake-up call. You are now shown what you are not when it comes to the upper echelon teams in the National Football League. And now moving forward, are you going to answer that wake-up call, or are you going to allow yourself to remain asleep at the wheel based on what happened to you on Sunday night? Because if you can pick yourself up and then be able to compete with some of these teams, you can feel a little bit better about where your chances are with Dallas. But right now, as of this second, that is not a Super Bowl caliber football team, nor on the level of any of those teams that we consider on the short list. That in and of itself should be a wake-up call because of the short window you may be talking about that actually may be closing based on what this roster is looking like. Oh, boy. 42-10 was the final score last night on Sunday Night Football. Brock Purdy and that offense looked absolutely incredible. George Kittle said F Dallas. Literally. It's the Get Right. We're Reggie KG right here on 105.3 The Fan. Coming up next, Week 5's NFL overreactions or not, including this one when it comes to Bill Belichick.
Cowboys are never going to win again?
Next.
Always a welcome sign for this clubhouse. Featuring breaking sports news, inside info, opinion, with laughs along the way. Turn it on, leave it on. The Fan and the Odyssey app.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine.
Shop now to explore our innovative PCs like the XPS 13 laptop, powered by the latest Intel Core processors, plus this season's top accessories. Visit Dell.com/gift guide today to get a jump on your holiday gift list. That's Dell.com/gift guide.
If you turn it on and leave it on the fan, you know we're DFW's sports leader on insight and original content all day long. No need to go back and search for it. We send it to you. Yeah. Sign up for our fan newsletter today at 1053thefan.com. Proudly presented by Bosch Power Tools.
Football and Miller Lite, America's greatest pairing. Can cracks at kickoff, tailgates going way past postgame. You never forget the way some things taste. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
It's a Cowboys Monday, brought to you by Twin Peaks and K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing on 105.3 The Fan.
This segment on 105.3 The Fan is sponsored by Frankel & Frankel. Life is unpredictable. Accidents happen. Frankel & Frankel are the go-to attorneys for car and truck wrecks in DFW. If you or a loved one has been in an accident, contact Frankel & Frankel for a free consultation at truckwreck.com or call 214 or 817-333-3333.
Okay, Chris.
That's a quality read, Chris.
Get in there, Chris.
I like what you're doing there. I like what you're doing.
Just a little tip. Say 33-33. Makes life a little bit easier.
You good with that? All right, he's good with that.
Because sometimes you start stumbling over threes. You're like 3-3.
Oh, man, that got me one time on a read. Yeah.
Three?
Yeah, because I read 100 threes. I was like, wait, that's not right.
I don't know. How many threes did I say? I'm going to put a couple more in there.
3-3-3. Oh, wait, that's too many threes, Kevin.
Dude, there are too many threes on there. Yeah.
Somebody done picked up by that point, though.
Yeah, because it's 214-333. 33. Yeah, that's.
I got that going.
Yeah,
it makes your life just a little bit easier.
Sounds much more organic. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
It's the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 through the Fans. We discuss live reads.
We know how to read.
Reading is fundamental. That is for damn sure. NFL overreactions or not, coming out of week 5 of a wild weekend of action coming up in 14 minutes. We'll go inside the gray area where Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are apparently Rangers fans.
Huh.
I'll let you know how they are in 14 minutes here. On the Get Right.
Hop on the bandwagon, baby. We going.
Oh, man. I'm so excited for tomorrow night because that's going to be.
Why? Because you don't have to show up to work?
No.
It's fine. You don't have to.
I'm a little low-key jealous because G-Bag's going to be at Globe Life Field ahead of Game 3 of the American League Division Series.
They wasn't going to send us to no Globe Life Field.
The point is they're going to be there with incredible food and Hurtado Barbecue specifically. Did you see they released some new food today?
No, I don't concern myself with stuff that's not going to impact me.
Wow.
What, I'm just going to make myself sad on the internet? What's wrong with you?
You don't have to make yourself sad. You can go to the game. Take yourself to the game or something.
That is true.
How about that? Didn't think about that, did
the way
you?
my bank account's set up.
You got it.
Where? Help me find it. Because it is eluding me at this point.
He's like, I ain't got it like that. I need to see how much the tickets are, like the average price for Game 3.
That's a good point. Let me see.
Yeah, to look at that.
Especially with the Rangers are hooping.
Hooping right now, boy. Overreaction or not when it comes to week 5 of the National Football League. This comes from CBS Sports, courtesy of Jeff Kerr. Shout out to him for this piece of content here. Overreaction or not, this is wild. This is Bill Belichick's last season coaching the New England Patriots. Overreaction or not?
That feels like an overreaction, but I think that the sentiment behind it is not. Does that make sense?
I mean,
I think that the goodwill that he has with all of that time, all of them championships,
it's starting to run out.
Robert Kraft has an appreciation for that. But the tough thing about Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick has been an innovator in this league. Like, you see all these slot receivers that we got. Bill Belichick is sort of some of the reason why we had that, because while teams were scared in trying to stop your big play receivers on the outside, he was like, I'll just take this Wes Welker that y'all don't seem to value at all. I'll take this Danny Amendola, no problem. Bring that over here. And made a little
Chris Hogan.
Chris Hogan play on the outside. You can't see, you're doing racism right now. You
is that what I'm doing? I'm doing that.
Chris Hogan is an outside receiver. He is not a slot.
Every single white receiver this side of the Mississippi and putting them on the England Patriots at this point.
Did I not mention that they were slot receivers? And honestly, the reason why they were white slot receivers is because the rest of the league was like, what am I going to do with the white receiver? And Bill Belichick was like, come here, I'll show you.
He found a market inefficiency.
That's right.
Hey, bring them white cats over here.
That's
man.
right. And
they can play.
And he innovated, right? Like, obviously, having that slot be of a certain level of import Bill Belichick did. Like, there's other instances where you could point to the ways in which Bill Belichick has been an innovator. When he changes stuff now, it doesn't look innovative. And so you're starting to wonder if he's losing his fastball. You know what I mean? Like that's where it's starting to get interesting. And so I don't know if this year is going to be the one, because I think some people question Mac Jones' ability. But then also, hey, the idea that he's just going
benched again yesterday.
The idea that he's just going to put Matt Patricia in there and he'll call plays on offense, like that's one of those things where it's like, hey, that sounds like it'd be innovative, but also it's just stupid. And so I wonder if he got if this is one of those instances where, yo, mama, you got one more time to do something stupid, embarrass me in front of. Like, I do wonder if he's getting near that point where it's like, hey, we're starting to see the supposed genius of Bill Belichick isn't there, and if you're not getting the supposed genius of Bill Belichick, what are you getting? Because the personnel decisions can be questionable sometimes, all those things, and if those are not being covered by innovation, you're just looking kind of bad.
The New England Patriots have been outscored in their last 2 games, 72-3. New England has just 55 points on the season. The Dolphins in a game scored 70. That is absurd. The Patriots were dealt back-to-back 30-point losses for the first time since 1970, and Belichick has suffered the 2 worst losses of his career in consecutive weeks. In his first 453 games as a head coach, Belichick lost by 30 points once. He's lost by 30-plus points each of his last 2 games. I'm going to say it's an overreaction, because all you're going to do is just slap them rings on the table.
And you know what? That's what I'd do too.
That's what I would do.
How dare you? Who do you think you are? I am.
I am. Overreaction or not, coming out of week 5. The Dolphins have the better. Wow, might be a little overreaction. Dolphins have a better offense than the greatest show on turf. Overreaction or not?
Ooh. This is tough.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this one.
Let's get spicy. I'm going to say not.
Ooh, well, there are some numbers that would back you up with that claim. The Miami Dolphins have the most total yards, 2,568, in any team's first 5 games in NFL history. They passed the 2,000 Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Most yards per play, 8.3 yards per play in any team's first 5 games since the 2000 Rams. And they have 181 points, which is the most in any team's first 5 games since the 2015 New England Patriots and the 2015 Arizona Cardinals. The Dolphins lead the NFL in passing yards, yards per attempt, rushing yards, yards per rush, and they lead the NFL in yards per game, yards per play, first downs per game, and points per game.
Are you done yet? Is there any more? Any more things they lead the league in?
That's it.
I think also one of the things that we do in sports is, and just in general in life, we try and hold up, idols of the past, because obviously we want to appreciate our history. But modern things get to stand on the shoulders of giants, right? This offense absolutely stands on the shoulders of offenses like the greatest show on turf. And one of the things that you have now is that you have additional schematic revelations. That's the word I was looking for. And look, man, the Miami offense is a reminder that scheme matters so much. They have so much talent. Don't get me wrong. But what happens in Miami is when you have all of that talent, you match it with scheme that can help, make that talent better. And then you get these crazy situations where, they're getting these dudes going and then getting them in space and letting them cook, right? You got instances where dudes are cooked off the line. And so, man, I love what's happening, and maybe I'm just overreacting. That's fine. But I love the way this looks right now. And it's just an appreciation for the ways that talent evaluation and appreciation also matches schematic appreciation.
The Dolphins are a perfect collection of when scheme meets talent.
Mm-hmm.
And they have found a way to get dudes that are fast as hell with quickness, that understand conceptually what Mike McDaniel wants to do offensively every single week. And they found a quarterback that has been playing Brock Purdy like point guard and is even able to throw the ball deeper than Brock Purdy into a Tagovailoa. And that is just made for a recipe of destroying teams week over week. Now, how they deal with the injuries with Devon Achane and Teron Armstead, their talented left tackle there, will remain to be seen. But if nothing
Get the ball
else,
even quicker out. Get the ball out even quicker.
If nothing else, I trust Black Mike to be able to find a way to make it happen in Miami. I just love his aesthetic. He fits Miami kind of well down there. He kind of just got that real chill vibe, that nonchalant attitude, and he's like, I'm just going to run all over y'all with my offense every week.
Hey, man, it's fun. It's fun when it's going on like that, so I ain't mad at him.
Last one here in Week 5's NFL's overreaction or not. By the way, Joe Burrow hooping yesterday. He found his way back.
I saw him running, and I was like, okay, maybe he's feeling a little bit better.
Him and Jamar Chase were balling.
Yeah, they definitely fixed that. Jamar was like, why am I not getting the ball? And they were like, oh.
Joe's like, don't worry about it.
We can do something about that.
We can fix that.
Don't worry about that one.
Final one here. Overreaction or not, gentlemen. The Cowboys are paper tigers. Overreaction or not.
I lean towards not because it's a point that I made earlier. Bad teams don't handle bad teams the way that the Cowboys, especially not in the NFL, man. This is not a league made for blowouts. And they've handled teams, but they're inconsistent.
Yes.
And so that lends to some paper tigerness, right? Like so that's where it gets tough. But what their high end is capable of doing, real legitimate Tiger stuff. They just have to be consistent. And so I don't know. Is that a paper tiger make? Should I say that that's not an overreaction?
That's not an overreaction if you feel that way.
Okay, not an overreaction.
For the moment, yeah, that's not an overreaction at all. Again, this team talked all week long about what this game was a measuring stick and how this is going to be a test to see where they were in the hierarchy of the NFC, and they simply did not answer the call. And they didn't answer the call in any phase of that football game yesterday. So at the moment, yeah, that is not an overreaction. Could that change by the time we get deeper into the season? When they play the Eagles, when they play the Bills, when they play the Dolphins, and they play teams like the Chargers and the Rams and figure out who they are and maybe get some of these wins to maybe change some of that perception? Yeah, maybe, but that ain't sure today. That's not today at all. So I would agree with that. That is not an overreaction. By the way,
paper tiger with good bones.
If you wanted more ammunition on your Dak Prescott isn't good feelings right now.
Oh, them people don't need more ammunition, but go ahead and give it to him.
Well, I'm going to give it to him. Mm-hmm. With the 3 interceptions that he had yesterday, he now has 21 interceptions in his last 19 games, including the postseason. Does one reign Dakota Prescott.
Nasty business.
And the defense allowing 42 points. The Cowboys coming into yesterday had given up, I believe, a total of 41 on the season.
And that was beaten in a single game.
And they gave up 42 yesterday. Yeah, they had outscored their opponents 124 to 41 so far this year. And gave up 42 yesterday.
Feels bad, man. Feels bad.
Yeah, they got to wear this one. They got to wear it.
You know what the worst part about it is for me?
What's that?
I'm going to show you how selfish I am.
Oh, okay.
They done made me look stupid on multiple accounts.
Well, who are you telling, man? Because here's the thing. Okay, now you got me on the tangent real quick. 30 seconds. Here's the thing. I am tired of this team making me look like an idiot and a fool when it comes to supporting how they are supposed to handle business. Because when they scored, what was it, the flea flicker or the indirect, whatever the hell that was, that creative stuff that they were doing where they flipped it to Debo and he flipped it back to Purdy and Purdy, threw the point guard pass to George Kittle for the touchdown. I said, I'm tired of this team making me look stupid. They making me look stupid, making Rams look dumb, making Cowboys Nation look dumb. I'm tired of making, look stupid, man.
In front of company.
In front of company. I'm trying to have a good time with my wife and my baby girl watching this game with these fans out here making me look like a dummy. Sick of this football team, man. All right, we're good. Appreciate that. I had to get that out. Pause.
All right.
That's a little overreaction or not coming out of week 5 of the National Football League. Coming up next, we go inside the gray area where apparently Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are Rangers fans. The audio to prove it next.
Hi there, it's Pete Thompson from the Consumer Team. Record high temperatures this summer have put extra strain on your HVAC system. That's stress, plus the dirt, dust, and debris.
of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/Sean and RJ. You get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Sean and RJ.
We know you're excited because Cowboys football is back. With the free Odyssey app, you can jump back and listen to the moments that matter, even if you missed it live. Catch Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus on G-Bag Nation, or listen to Jerry Jones' interview with Sean and RJ on 105.3 The Fan.
And I hope that our fans would understand that I do know how to keep it stirred up.
Stay close to the team wherever you are this season. Download the free Odyssey app today. AUDACY.
Boomer Esiason is on the Fan. Check out Kickoff, getting you ready for every game. Sunday mornings at 7 on the Fan. Presented nationally by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos, brought to you by those who drink it. And Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. It's Boomer on 105.3 The Fan.
About to go inside the gray area, where, of course, there is no gray area, on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
What up, though?
Ross and Chris holding it down for here. Really appreciate you joining us on Odyssey and the Odyssey app. The truckbreak.com text line, 877-881-1053. 877-881-1053 if you want to get in on the conversation. I appreciate you allowing me to breathe and let me get that
You speaking for both of us, man.
That ran out last segment there because that was embarrassing. Just embarrassing. And it's as we enter the gray area here, I feel for guys like Zach Walchuk, who loves this team, covers this team, and is just tired of putting up with watching this team sometimes in the way that they can flat out embarrass you. And
themselves.
That's what it was yesterday.
Yeah, no, this is the thing. If they lose that game and it's competitive,
you feel a lot better about it.
I don't have any issues.
Yeah.
I can see how you go, the Niners are a better team. Well, you competed. They got whomped, bro. Like, you can't, if you had some level of belief in them going into that game, there's nothing to hang your hat on.
That's the frightening part. Like, what can you
there's not really silver linings in there.
Yeah, not
That's
at all.
the tough part.
Well, there's one.
Brandon Aubrey was kicking?
Yeah, he was hooping. Only player that was hooping yesterday.
That man kicked one field goal and extra point. You say he was hooping?
50-yard field goal, man.
Okay.
Shout out to him for doing his job.
And shout out to Brian Anger. For sitting on the Cowboys hour and answering these questions that probably should have went to somebody else.
He took that for all the team, didn't he? Ooh, man. Hey, Brian, can you go help us out tonight? Take that one for the team.
We said we wanted to talk about the Cowboys fan anger, not Brian Anger. What y'all doing?
He encapsulated all the anger, apparently. As we were inside the gray area, shout out to the Atlanta Braves tonight. The Braves became the only team in Major League Baseball postseason history to be down by 4 runs or more with no hits through 5 innings and still win the game.
That's a hitting ass team, bro.
Zach Wheeler was no hitting them cats for a while.
They looked like they didn't have bats going up to the and then they were like, "Don't worry,
we'll wake up."
What was it? Well, it was a RBI double. Then a 2-run blast, then another 2-run blast, and then they were like, "Oh, it's over now. We did it."
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
You're not blocked 254. You're welcome. Speaking of baseball in the postseason, let's go to the Monday night game where apparently Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are on the bandwagon when it comes to being Texas Rangers fans. Take a listen.
Speaking of October, how about my Rangers? Now I'm on that bandwagon. You bet I am.
I'll give you $100 if you can name 4 players for the Rangers.
You know, there was a time when I didn't have to work with you in October. I don't know. I don't know what happened in those days.
Those are long gone. You're stuck. Bye, Rangers. 3rd down and 1.
Notice how Troy politely deflected the idea of answering the question for the $100.
That man should have said Disney ain't paid for no MLB playoffs, so leave me alone.
It is funny though because of course Joe Buck, longtime voice for the MLB playoffs on Fox,
just made room for my guy Joe Davis. That's all.
To the chagrin of some, to the delight of others. By the way, okay, since you brought up Joe Davis.
Oh, I was good. Before we move off of Joe Buck, you remember that one time that he was clutching his pearls on TV? Because Randy Moss did the fake one? That's one of my favorite things ever. In that I thought he was wilding. Like, are you for real?
He was wilding in that moment.
You really in your feelings because he pretended to pull down his pants?
That is a moment in time.
Anyways, you were talking about Joe Davis?
Yeah, because speaking of the MLB on Fox, so a lot of people, have not necessarily been feeling the commentary of Joe Davis and particularly John Smoltz.
Really?
Because they felt like so far through 2 games on the broadcast has been a Orioles love fest for the fact that they, just a couple of years ago had lost 100 games. It's the rebirth of the Orioles, the baby birds out here, in the playoffs, that kind of thing. And some people not really feeling John Smoltz and his commentary. Joe Davis to a lesser degree, but I saw a meme where it had Joe Davis and John Smoltz both in Baltimore Orioles caps, detailing how people may be feeling about their commentary. Have you noticed that on the broadcast?
I can't say that I have, although I'm pretty sure I've been watching these games while I'm watching other games, so not always listening most intently to the baseball game. One thing I also know is just always going to be there is the kind of this everybody hates my team perspective. And not to say that there might be some reality in that. Someone might actually be hating on your team. But I know that that's just going to be a prevalent fan perspective. And so, yeah, no, I understand how folks can hear things like that. And I'm not saying that there's not there. I sincerely do not know. Someone said they hate the DFW and our economy.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Let's play this clip because I want to get your thoughts on this because obviously,
my thoughts?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. I share the gray area with you in this particular
Thanks,
space.
man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's take it to gentleman Micah Parsons on his show, critically acclaimed show, The Edge, on Bleacher Report. Here are his thoughts on...
Sir, he's a linebacker, I've been told.
That's what I heard. Here are his thoughts on how he felt about George Kittle and his F Dallas shirt that he put on display last night.
George Kittle had 3 touchdowns on us, and he posted this thing to IG. He said F Dallas. I just feel like he's making it way more personal than it had to be. Kittle's my guy, but I'm going to say this. Laugh now, cry later. We got something for that. Just trust. If we see them again, just trust. And we're going to put it just like that. I ain't going to put too much on it. You're going to make it personal. We can make it personal. That's cool.
Thoughts?
That's an athlete.
I am athlete.
Athletes love either creating slights or drumming them up. That's an athlete, particularly one of a certain caliber. That's what they be doing. Because I know for me, I'd be quiet personally. Although I know Micah himself is probably not feeling like, because Mike is actually in his post game comments was like, I think we're still on the same level as them. We just beat ourselves.
Which I'm not gonna lie to you, it felt a little tone deaf. Little tone deaf in my mind.
But look, man, if you are going to beat all of the odds it takes to become a professional,
I get it. Yeah.
Just reading the tone ain't necessarily what we just whatever. I create the storyline in my head of whatever needs to happen to get there.
Yeah.
However, it just doesn't feel as rooted in reality.
Correct.
At least not from where I am. So look, man. If that's what you're going to say, cool. The problem is you got to back it up. And right now, the track record
is you getting your ass backed up every time you play San Francisco.
And that's what's tough. So
for the 214, those Parsons words, they ain't hitting right now. They do ring kind of hollow today because you can't be the dude talking about,
we got something for you.
Got something for you when San Francisco done had everything for you the last 3 times you done seen them on the field.
Someone said from the 972, it's not a lie if you believe it. All right, that's a bad precedent to start. Okay, from the 817.
Somewhere, never mind.
Going back to the Fox broadcast, I ain't saying nothing, KG. I don't know where you're going.
I said it myself. I stand on it.
From the 817 broadcast, all they've talked about, about the Fox broadcast, all they've talked about is the Orioles youth.
Just what I said, yeah.
Okay.
The rebirth of the baby birds, all this. It's just been kind of every other word John Smoltz like, man, it's just incredible to see, these young talented players,
Sure.
Adley Rutschman was the the face of the rebuild.
And then here comes Gunnar Henderson, right? And Grayson Rodriguez.
Exactly.
I hear it. Yeah, I got you.
You get the drift. Yeah, you got it right
okay,
there.
all right.
See, you didn't even have to watch the broadcast. You got
so that was the whole broadcast. Got it.
Yeah.
And then they was like, oh man, Evan Carter doing stuff. That's crazy.
Hey, grand
Corey
slam by
Seager?
Mitch Garver.
Woo!
Wow.
Mitch Garver.
How about
also.
that?
That's wild.
The team actually beat the brakes off the team that we're talking about all broadcast long.
Man, these young Orioles.
How about that?
Oh boy, young Orioles getting beat now. That's crazy.
I love the stroke of nope. Never mind.
Yeah, you're just gonna abandon that one where it was.
Yep. Abandon ship on that one. Yep. Left that one right there.
Yeah, just go ahead and cut that up for.
That's not. You can,
regardless.
That's not your first, audio cuttable moment there. Pause.
Anyways, where were you going for?
Bruce Bochy and his level of genius when he decided, hey man, Mitch Garver hits fastballs quite a bit. Let's stick him in there in the other 3 hole. Yep, I said that one.
That's common baseball parlance. I think you're in the gray there.
Oh, I like what you did there. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
And it just clicked. Mitch Garver, that grand slam. That was a lot of fun on Saturday. Seeing that team. Or what was that, yesterday? Yesterday.
Days running together.
They won game 1
I mean,
Saturday,
they was cooking on Saturday
game 2
too.
Yesterday. They were both games. You're right.
Because they got after both them pitchers.
Bro, they chased Rodriguez. I was like, yo.
I need them to.
Okay.
Well, they chased him in one way, but they didn't chase pitches. That's one of the things that's been really fun about the Rangers, that they've been great approaches at the plate. So and the Orioles have not been throwing strikes very well, man.
No.
They walked quite a few dudes. And so, look, man, if they're going to put you on base, let them put you on base. It just means that the next man up can, get you home.
Finally, inside the gray area here, of course, Monday Night Football being played in Las Vegas tonight with the Packers and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
So, they have the MSG Sphere in Las Vegas.
That's right.
Advertising on the $2.3 billion MSG Sphere costs $450,000 for a 4-hour window on a single day. So, of course, Disney got all the money. They have Monday Night Football on the Sphere for all 4 hours.
Very good.
Of the show, of the football game.
You know what the Sphere is best for?
What's that?
Keeping James Dolan busy so the Knicks can actually get something done. That's what the Sphere is doing. Because
that is his.
It's owned by
it?
Madison Square Garden.
That's right. That is his.
So the Knicks might actually be good, like another level of good this year, because he's had his stuff that he's been busy with. In fact, that might be why the Knicks are back to looking like some level of capable. Because James Dolan over in the desert,
busy with doing other stuff.
That's right.
By the way, Ben Simmons hooping tonight.
All right, you falling for it?
I know.
You feel bad saying that, right?
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that. Okay.
I appreciate the accountability. Yeah, I'm not falling for that. Yeah, you're right. That's your trip inside the gray area here on the Get Right from the 817. Is that G-Bag of the year?
It was funny. I don't know. We've heard some they be having police phone calls and police body cam audio and stuff, man. I think there's better than what you just said.
The one that they had the other day where the guys were chasing the storm. I think it was in Oklahoma or something.
Oh man.
And they were
they bit off more than they chew.
Woo! And they was like,
they was in the
Lord,
find out.
Please help us, Jesus.
Jesus was like, I ain't send you into that hurricane.
I didn't tell you
that tornado.
To
Why
go
you
find
in there?
that storm anyway.
Why are you in there?
What are you doing?
Who put you in there?
Lord, help us get out of this storm that we're chasing right now.
Jesus said, this is the find out portion. What is wrong with you? Why are you there?
We got your headlines next on the Get Right.
That does not glorify God.
Nighttime on the Fan means Rangers baseball. Or the Get Right with Kevin Gray and Reggie Atatula. Live and local.
power to make things better.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
From our fan studios secured by DFWsecurity.com, it's time for the Get Right on 105.3 The Fan.
Mike's hot in the final hour to Get Right. We're Reg and KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
What's up?
Ross and Chris on the down for you. Appreciate you joining us on Odyssey. And the Odyssey app going to get you caught up on the latest headlines on this Monday night here on your home of the Cowboys and Texas Rangers. 105.3 The Fan. At Kevin Gray Sports, at Reg Atatula if you want to get at us on Twitter. With you until 11 o'clock tonight, coming up here in about roughly 17, 18 minutes. A little college football roundup after Bobby Belt's Texas Longhorns caught that L at the Cotton Bowl this weekend. Meanwhile, Georgia looks like Georgia again. We'll do a little college football talk coming up next segment. As it's been a busy Monday night, of course, your Texas Rangers back on the diamond tomorrow as they look for the clean sweep of the Baltimore Orioles after taking games 1 and 2 on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. That's how we kick off your headlines here on this Monday night, as give Bruce Bochy and his team a lot of credit, have won their first 4 postseason games all on the road. Now, I do have to read this factual statistic here for you.
I don't like this disclaimer that you're giving right now.
Again, it's factual. I'm reading it verbatim, okay?
Okay.
This is not to, put any kind of juju or bad omen on the Cowboys or the Cowboys. They got enough of that.
Yeah.
The Rangers. But here's what's interesting about this. The last team to win the first 2 division series games on the road and not win the series like the Rangers have done so far in 2 games against Baltimore.
Well, you're doing a lot saying and not win the series. Be careful.
Was the Rangers in 2015 when they won the first 2 games on the road in Toronto and then proceeded to lose games 3, 4, and 5.
What did you gain from this?
Just reading a historical fact. That's all.
So what you trying to say?
That the Rangers are going to sweep tomorrow and break that trend.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Assuming that's what you mean.
That's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
You think I mean different? You think I mean ill harm toward the Texas Rangers? Look at me. Look what I'm wearing tonight.
That is, in fact, a Texas Ranger shirt.
That's right. Because they're the only one worth a damn right now. Because it's showing out the Cowboys.
Hey, man, look, the Stars start their season in 3 days.
They haven't started playing yet.
The Mavericks got a couple of weeks till regular season. They got a preseason game tomorrow.
How good we feel about them right now?
Look, I didn't say nothing about that.
I just asked a question.
I don't want to answer that.
Just like they don't want to answer some question right now anyway.
All right. Okay.
Speaking of which, Mavericks going to be on the court tomorrow when they take on Real Madrid, Luka's former team.
Mm-hmm.
It was Luka day today, all over the place. As this has been something that the Mavericks organization has been working on for quite some time, which is getting a chance to play Real Madrid and to do that for Luka Doncic. And they're going to do that tomorrow. And then they have...
That's some grow the brand stuff. It's like, hey, you remember that dude y'all love so much? Look at him over here in this Mavericks jersey. Speaking of Mavericks jerseys, we got those on sale over here.
Plenty of 77 jerseys on sale.
I'd be surprised. Look, I'd be surprised if they sell a single other jersey while they're in Madrid. Like, hey, we got them on stock. Come get you a Luka Doncic jersey or a jersey shirt.
Yeah. By the way, note on that game, Kyrie Irving will not play tomorrow. He's dealing with
again.
That groin.
All right, so this is the tough thing, right?
Yeah, man.
Like we talked about how this these 2 guys when they were played together last season, Luka and Kyrie, the offensive numbers were incredible. But it's like, oh man, they had some injuries. Obviously now they're gonna have the summer get right, have a training camp, preseason to get to know each other better. And you're already dealing with the injuries. And this is the thing about Kyrie is like, obviously Kyrie has missed work for waves hands wildly, right? But he's also missed time just for injury. Like he's starting to get up there in age. And not to say that he's like actually old, but in basketball age, he's getting a little bit up there. And then also he's had some nagging injuries. It's not great to hear that there's already kind of starting up early. And look, man, you have a lot of depth when it comes to guards. But you don't have Kyrie depth. Like, that part of the appeal of having Kyrie is what he is capable of doing offensively, not just from a scoring perspective, but also like distributing the ball and changing the pace, like getting them moving, getting transition buckets, which is something that they haven't done all that great. Not saying that he's going to miss an extended amount of time, but that starts to be a concern in a way that, I don't know, I hadn't fully fleshed out before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's of slight concern right now. But at the same time, this team opens up the regular season 2 weeks from Wednesday. So, and they won't play another preseason game until October 20th when they finally come home to play their first preseason game at home when they take on the Detroit Pistons. So it'll be a while before they see actual game action again. So Kyrie Irving not playing tomorrow. While you would love to see him and Luka play together, look, take all the precaution that you need at this point right now. And we'll see them when they get from the 2-1-4. Can a brother get a wing? Mavs. But I'm looking forward to seeing this team on the floor.
They got a Josh Green for you. How's that sound?
Yep, that's about what they got right now. Yeah.
Light, a very, very, very light Omax, Olivier Maxence Prosper, or Maxence, as Mark Followell has been saying. Maxence. I gotta get like Mark Followell, where he has like the full French pronunciation in there.
Well, that's the end of that Monday Night Football. We'll get to that here in just a moment, as the Raiders are going to get the win in Las Vegas on this Monday night. As we continue your headlines here on this Monday night. Speaking of football, bad news when it comes to Leighton Vander Esch. Leighton Vander Esch could miss 4 to 6 weeks with a neck strain suffered in the loss last night to the San Francisco 49ers, which means he's likely headed to injured reserve, Coach Mike McCarthy said today, meaning that he would be out the next 4 games. After next week's game against the Chargers, the Cowboys have their bye, which could put Vander Esch's return at November 19th at the Carolina Panthers, or as late as November 30th against the Fighting Geno Smiths of Seattle. So bad news for a team that's already short on linebacker play as it is, Leighton Vander Esch. And here's the bigger concern with that is,
yes.
And, you know, it's been mentioned a little bit. I saw Clarence Hill Jr. of the Fort Worth Star Telegram, mention this a little bit. This could be possibly, again, I stress the word possibly, career threatening for him. So this is something to monitor for not just the rest of the regular season, but really, potentially for Leighton Vander Esch moving forward as a player in this league, because he's had a storied history, unfortunately, of neck injuries in the NFL.
Yeah. Obviously, in the short term, this leaves you with Damone Clark and Marquise Bell, who's been playing linebacker as well. And then also you have Malik Jefferson on the practice squad, who you brought back after some time in training camp. Ooh, you're kind of light there, which makes me wonder if they're going to, look to maybe trade. I don't imagine that, raiding a practice squad is going to help you in a big way. But maybe you make a trade for a linebacker, or maybe you do try and raid the practice squad and see if you can add depth. But that's tough because you kind of need the top end talent,
Well, the Cowboys, of course, had elevated already Malik Jefferson from the practice squad, and last week they had signed Mikael Jones to the practice squad, both mostly in special teams roles for them. So, yeah, they'll need to find a veteran linebacker to be a part of this linebacker group, because right now it is thin, and there's only so much versatility that can be utilized between Marquise Bell and some of the other guys on this team that you've got to find a traditional linebacker for this defense.
But does the idea of the possibility, right? Like the idea of the possibility of this being a career-threatening injury for Leighton Vander Esch speak again to that idea of a window for the Cowboys, where I know Leighton Vander Esch isn't like the most important player in the way that you do this, but when you have another one of those players that could possibly be kind of filtering out if this injury does go in the maybe worst possible scenario, does that also make you think in those ways? Or is that just a bridge too far?
I think that might be a bridge too far just for me.
Because you got DeMarvion Overshown for next year.
Which, again, you hope that he comes back and is able to play, at the level that he was starting to show in preseason. But you just never know with the torn ACLs and how much longer it will take.
Yeah.
It usually takes a year for a guy to get himself back to where he was pre-torn ACL. We saw that with Michael Gallup and how that turned out. Now, it could be different for different guys based on, how their body is able to heal. And Overshown's a little bit younger, but, we'll see when it comes to that. Speaking of football, Oklahoma and Texas had one hell of a football game at the Cotton Bowl this weekend. But they had a big loss, did Oklahoma. Their wide receiver, Andrew Anthony, is done for the season. He, of course, led the team in receiving yards for them this year, but he's got a knee injury that's going to require surgery, Brent Venables told reporters tonight. So, unfortunately, they are down now. Their best receiver, of course, the transfer from Michigan, suffered the injury in the fourth quarter of that game against Texas. He had 5 receptions for 42 yards in the game and 27 catches for 429 yards and a touchdown on the season. So, big blow for them.
More targets for Drake Stoops. No, obviously that's a tough loss for Oklahoma. It's tough for the young man as well, but I think they'll be able to traverse this pretty well. The Big 12 is in a really weird state this year, where it really does feel like this is a 2-horse race between the University of Texas, University of Oklahoma. I truly believe those two will meet back up when it comes to Big 12 championship time, because the teams that you came into the season looking as the next possibilities to try and contend in the Big 12 are TCU, by virtue of them being in the national championship last year. I think that explains itself. If you would like me to explain further, I can, I guess. And Kansas State just lost to Oklahoma State. So, look, I can actually pull up the standings. I think West Virginia is currently tied for that next situation there, if that tells you anything about what's happening.
Yeah, if everything goes according to plan, Texas and Oklahoma will see each other in Arlington for the Big 12 championship, which I would love to see again. I would love to see that game again based on what happened.
I guess I haven't been fair to Kansas, but Jalen Daniels seems to continually be injured in a way. They're having to go to Jason Bean a ton, and that's not a bad team, but I don't think they meet the same caliber as Texas and OU.
And Texas already beat Kansas, so they would need to finish ahead of them to make the Big 12 championship game. Speaking of the Big 12, you see this from Brett McMurphy today, who covers college sports for the Action Network.
I didn't.
The Big 12 has resumed talks to add Gonzaga.
Oh, yeah.
As an all-sports member as early as next year.
Yeah, and this is a conversation, I think it might have been Dan Wolken who was tweeting about it. I don't know what value Gonzaga actually adds for the Big 12.
Basketball.
But this is the problem.
Basketball.
Big 12 has already been a very powerful basketball brand.
Mm-hmm. I want to make it more powerful.
I don't know how much Gonzaga actually helps you, especially when they're not bringing anything football-wise. Right? Because it's like we need to solidify our basketball brand. Their basketball brand is solid.
Yeah, I think it's more so the holistic thing when it comes to Brett Yormark, who has, kind of detailed the idea of, he wants to be a quote-unquote, national conference when it comes to the footprint that the Big 12 will have. And you obviously, with the departures of Texas and Oklahoma, lose some of that in a big, big way from a football perspective. Why not strengthen what is your strength right now, especially from a national perspective when you look at basketball, by adding a perennial top 10 team for the better part of, 15, 20 years at this point?
Yeah, but the Big 12 already has 5 of those.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying they're going to strengthen that even.
Yeah, but I don't know that you add very much value there. And that's the point. Is like doing
I think the regional footprint.
What? You're really adding by adding the state of Washington, what you're doing here? I don't think that actually adds value.
I mean, there was consideration
right?
at one point to add Oregon at one point.
Yeah, and Oregon brings a national football brand, which that's where the money is in all of this, right? And I'm not trying to devalue what Gonzaga has basketball wise. It's a huge basketball brand, and for maybe a conference that does not have a big basketball presence, maybe you could say that. But this is not like ACC adding Notre Dame as a non-football conference. Like ACC adds Notre Dame as a non-football member because they're like, but maybe in the future we can get football. You be adding Gonzaga to the likes of Kansas and Houston and Baylor and the way that Tech has played recently, right? You're adding this to like a really solid basketball brand and just be like, all right, this is another one. And now you're splitting that revenue amongst them. And it's like it has to add value to you. It has to really be worthwhile. And I'm not certain that it does. But hey, look, I guess the idea is the Big 12, 12, 18 months ago, people were like, oh, this thing might be falling apart. And now it looks like it's somewhat stable. And maybe you make damn sure that it does not fall apart in any ways and that it's as stable as it possibly can be.
And it's funny you mentioned that because, of course, Colorado is coming back to the Big 12 in terms of football. Remember I told you about how that thing will start to flip up when Deion started recruiting people? It's starting to happen.
Okay.
It's starting to happen. I need to find the kid's name, but there was a big-time 4-star recruit that made his commitment to Colorado today, and I think it's starting to happen.
I'll be interested in watching this go. Like, again, it's always been an interesting question to see how much you can do through the portal. And, of course, you're talking about, like, high school recruiting. Should be interesting because obviously Deion's been talking about how you have to use a lot of the portal and how high school recruits are probably going to be left behind in some ways. The idea that he's going and making sure to recruit high school players would indicate maybe that he has a good eye and a good head for what's happening in the college football landscape. Look, at this point, I don't think I know enough to be able to forecast, particularly with the uniqueness of Deion. I'm just really intrigued on how this goes.
4-star edge rusher, Montre Bradford, committed to Colorado today.
I want to see that offensive line, though, because that's been the issue. Man, Shakur has been taking knocks.
Yeah, Shedeur been getting put on his butt a lot so far for Colorado. But if this thing starts to happen for them, then who knows? Apparently for Bradford, just a quick note on that, it came down for him between Colorado and Texas A&M, and his quote today on why he chose Colorado, quote, "The atmosphere is different," end quote.
Oh, he likes the elevation?
No, that'd be the
one
vibe.
that play at Brigham Young?
No, that'd be the vibe.
Oh, okay.
Quote, "Coach Prime is different. He's a great coach, and he's a father-like figure that I never had. He's one of the best ever. Coach Prime is about to do huge things at Colorado," end quote. My man goes 6'5", 230 pounds. Woo! Okay. That's some of your headlines here on the Get Right with Reggie KG here on 105.3 of the Fan. Coming up next, speaking of college football, man, was it a wild weekend in college football. Georgia looking like Georgia, and Brent Venables' Carter Freeman has announced themselves on the national stage once again. How? We'll tell you next on 105.3 the Fan.
All day, every day, bringing you insights and information no one has right here on The Fan and on the Odyssey app.
Can you smell it? Can you feel it? Yeah, it's football season. And if you're tired of feeling older than all your favorite game day heroes, reverse the clock with Soda's Belly Fat Reversal program. Because when it comes to weight loss that lasts, Soda has the absolute playbook for success. Just like the pros in the NFL, you can be a winner at life with Soda. Steven tried it on his own. Steven, how did that go?
I'm an incredibly picky eater, but it caused me to branch out. The other cool thing is, even if you do want to eat out, I can get on my phone, I can text Soda, and I can say, hey, what can I have? And they immediately send you a response. It's fast.
Thank you, Steven. Check out the thousands upon thousands of 5-star reviews at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda helped me lose 30 pounds. They can help you lose 30 or even up to 200 pounds. Guys, girls, it's not a soft drink. It's soda. State of the art.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Imagine moving into your new home before selling your old home. For top dollar, you can with Orchard. Here's one couple's story. Moving to Texas for work, they needed to sell their old home first, move, rent an apartment, then move into their new home. Total nightmare. But with Orchard's Move First program, they could sell their old home after moving into their
Turn your pregame party into a full-on football feast. With lower prices on a stadium-sized selection of world-class wines, spirits, beers, seltzers, and gourmet foods, Specs is your one-stop shop for all your game day essentials. Cowboy up at Specs. The fun starts here.
It's a Cowboys Monday, brought to you by Twin Peaks and K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing on 105.3 The Fan.
Little college football roundup here on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Kevin Gray, Reginald Atatula.
What up?
Ross and Chris holding it down for you. Appreciate you joining us on this Monday night here on your home of the Cowboys and Texas Rangers 105.3 The Fan after a glorious weekend for the good guys, taking a 2-0 series lead in their American League Division Series. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys taking a beatdown at the hands of Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, and the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, the Rangers back on the diamond tomorrow when they take and put Nathan Eovaldi on the mound for the good guys to see if they can clinch a trip to the American League Championship Series, where the other series between the Astros and the Twins are now tied at 1.
Yes.
In that series there.
We didn't get a chance to watch that game because we were engulfed in Cowboys.
That's right. Right.
But no, I'm obviously going to be interested in how that series goes. And obviously, okay, let me ask you about this because when we were talking to Levi, he mentioned how Ken Rosenthal wrote a piece about the long layoff now that the wild card is a 3-game series instead of like just that single game wild card. So teams that, obviously gave themselves a bye have had this extended time off. It was like 5 days. And some folks have been like kind of lamenting the time off and the idea of maybe it's had these teams not as ready to play. Are you of an opinion where it's like, hey, you want this team to be playing consistently and, running right into a series? Or would you be happy if the Rangers sweep and then the Astros take the 5 and you have a few days to kind of rest?
This rotation needs the rest. And it also gives you a chance to line up your rotation the way that you want to stack it going into the American League Championship Series. So I would much rather have the rest and the benefit of being able to, get your rotation and get your bullpen in order as well with that time off. So they're already short on pitching as it is. So any benefit that they can get to make that a better situation for them going into the championship series, I think they would take that, and I would take that as well. So, yeah, take the rest when you can get it, and they've done a lot of traveling too. Like them playing at Globe Life Field, this is the first time they played at home this entire postseason, and they've been gone for the last 2+ weeks now almost, because they ended their regular season in Seattle before they had to travel, to Tampa and then travel to, Baltimore. So I'm sure this team will welcome the idea of being able to be at home.
All right, let's talk a little bit college football. How about some winners and losers from week 6 of the college football week? Clear winner, Georgia.
It's funny because we talked about this going into the weekend about Carson Beck and whether or not things were a little suspect at quarterback for them. Will Chambers. They answered that in a big way on Saturday night as Brock Bowers and Carson Beck ran wild on Kentucky. A lot of busted coverages in that game that allowed Brock Bowers to have a massive night for them.
Yeah, Kentucky, typically makes it a little tough in games, and I think the lesson learned is that, hey, man, you can kind of muck this up against teams of a certain caliber, not a Georgia caliber team. Like a team with that much talent, you're just going to have to be able to play them, and clearly they could not. All right, did you see this game where a clear loser was maybe one of the worst managed coaching jobs in college football in recent memory, as Miami found a way to grab defeat from the jaws of victory against Georgia Tech in a Georgia Tech was coming off of a 38-27 loss to Bowling Green, and the unranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets got a 23-20 road win over number 17 Miami, where instead of kneeling out the clock on 3rd and 10, Miami opted to hand the football off. The running back fumbled, and then after fumbling, it allowed Georgia Tech to get on the ball. They went Haynes King, who is a name you might be familiar with if you have paid attention to Texas A&M recently.
Texas A&M's Haynes King?
Georgia Tech's Haynes King now.
I know. I'm just
saying.
So you know
he's smart.
Yeah.
Connected on a 30-yard pass and then 44-yard to a touchdown. Christian Leary put Georgia Tech ahead at the end of the game. So not only did they fumble when they could have knelt the ball out, then it was just like these big chunk passes that got them into the end zone to upset a Miami team who had the game well in hand.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this has happened to Mario Cristobal before, has it not?
I thought Chris Vanini had a tweet about this where he referenced this. Let me see if I can find this one more again.
Because that was the part that was starting to floor me about the whole thing. Is that this is not the first time that this has happened to him before.
Yeah, I mean, just in a more like 30,000-foot view.
Yeah,
Mario Cristobal is not a good in-game manager. He's like program builder, recruiter guy.
But this is not hard. Like you're literally.
It shouldn't be.
Seconds away, 30+ seconds away from winning the game, and all you have to do is to take a knee. Like that's literally all you had to do.
Yeah, so remember when he was at Oregon, and this comes from the San Francisco Gate. I'll read it verbatim. With Oregon leading 31-28 at home and the ball near midfield, Cristobal could have had Justin Herbert kneel to let the clock run down to 16 or fewer seconds before he punted. Instead, he had C.J. Verdell run on 2nd and 2. The call looked entirely reasonable at the moment, but the redshirt freshman fumbled. Stanford took the possession with 51 seconds left and drove to the tying field goal as time expired, and then the Cardinal won 38-31 in overtime. So not exactly the same, but one of those instances where just severely poorly mismanaged which is tough for a Miami team who really put a lot into Mario Cristobal, and he's embarrassing them in front of everybody right now.
And they were ranked 17.
Yes.
And lost that game at home. Yeah, that's arguably one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And it didn't have to even be that way. Speaking of decisions, we got a decision to make when it comes to how we feel about this Oklahoma-Texas thing. Because Oklahoma reintroduced themselves, Jay-Z, on the national stage by taking out Texas in a year that it felt like, all right, Sark, this is the one.
Yeah.
This is the one you got to get. And you detailed like you felt like Texas needed this game more than Oklahoma. I went the other way, and Oklahoma found a way to get it done in a classic at the Cotton Bowl this past Saturday.
Yeah, they were tougher in the trenches. In fact, Texas had a big play, I believe, to Whittington, if I remember correctly, that got stopped at the one. It might have been Worthy, WY receivers. They got stopped at the one. It's like, all right, it's at the 1 yard line, 1st and 10, or 1st and goal rather, from the 1 yard line. They'll get this in. Nope. Just stonewall.
Yeah.
Time after time after time. And I think that was just like an indication of just how solid the trenches are, and the defense in particular for this Oklahoma team. Texas had opportunities, and I still don't feel like they're a bad team. This was a very close win in a good Red River rivalry game. But no, I mean the fumble was really tough for Texas. But hey, man, turnovers are going to happen. Can you play through it? And ultimately, Oklahoma did what was necessary to figure this one out. So hats off to Brent Venables and the Oklahoma team. I think these teams will match up again in the Big 12 championship game. And if Texas wants a level of silver lining, I don't think you lost in such a way that puts you out of the running for anything. You go back into the Big 12 championship game, you win, I think you have an opportunity to still get into the playoff.
I don't know. I mean, look, it was a close loss. And congratulations to Oklahoma, because this is a little early for them, but they are firmly in the top 5. In fact, the AP top 10 this week: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Oklahoma coming in at 5, Penn State at 6, Washington and Oregon at 7 and 8.
Well, here's the thing: Ohio State out here looking questionable.
Well,
questionable.
Look, it comes down to their quarterback with Kyle McCord. Like, is he going to be the guy for them to be able to put this thing over the top? Because they got enough.
That all sounds nice. Michigan is for real. Penn State is pretty good too. Okay. I don't put it past them to drop one of those.
Okay, and I'm struggling with Michigan because yes, they've beaten down everything in their path. But let's pump the brakes for a second.
Okay. You can pump the brakes.
They've beaten East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, a rebuilding Nebraska team, and Minnesota, who's not very good.
Did you see the score on Minnesota?
Yeah, it's 52-10. Like they've beat down everything in their path.
They've handled business. Now, of course, it's been a very advantageous schedule for them. But let me tell you, I think I already know which way I'm leaning when it comes time to the big game. Yeah, it's go blue over here, bro.
Okay, well, they got a tough road game November 11th. They should roll over Indiana. They're going to beat the hell out of Michigan State and do the same against Purdue. When they go to Happy Valley on November 11th,
Penn State's a tough team.
That's the game right there that I think is going to tell me whether or not this Michigan team is for real. And then they finish up against on the road at Maryland. Then they get Ohio State at the Big House this year.
Yeah,
so
I think they're going to put them in the mud. Speaking of in the mud, how about Texas A&M, who had an opportunity? I was giving them all the hype. I was like, look, man, this is the one that they get.
You let that con artist convince you that they was going to beat Alabama?
26-20. They were close. They almost did it.
You know who's starting to figure it out, though, at Alabama?
Who's that?
Jalen Milroe.
Okay, believe it if you want.
Did you watch the game? You see what Milroe was out there doing? He's starting to figure it out, man.
Okay, if you say so.
I told you better kick Alabama while they're down right now.
All right, Dion.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. Because let that offense start to figure it out. And it looks like Jalen Milroe is starting to figure it out a little bit at quarterback for Alabama. So, yeah, well, there's nothing I take about Jimbo Fisher seriously at this point. I really don't.
Yeah,
that's just me personally.
It really does feel like they're still running Jimbo plays, even though he brought in an offensive coordinator, Bobby Petrino.
Which that indicated to me, what am I taking you seriously for? Bobby Petrino? Come on, man. No. Washed. But Alabama, look, they coming at number 10 this week in the AP.
That's right.
So they're still a slot behind Texas. By the way, 7 and 8 are Washington and Oregon. Hello.
Both of those are fun. But yeah, no, don't worry. Georgia will take care of the Alabama problem you got. Don't worry about that one.
Yeah, you're right.
Speaking of taking care of top 10 ranked teams, Notre Dame, come on down.
That fraudulent program. And I hate it for the brother too, man. And I was telling my wife this the other day. I said that.
Yeah, but there's only so much hated for the brothers I got in me, man.
Well, he got all them kids. He got to feed. He got like a starting team and a half.
What are you doing right now?
Have you seen his family?
There's a lot of them. I understand.
Thank you. I want that
That
brother.
man loves his wife. It's very evident.
Very, very much so. I want that cat to succeed. But damn it, losing to Louisville.
Jeff Brom had that man in
hell
in the gulag.
I said, this fraudulent ass program. Every year, we do this every year with Notre Dame. Notre Dame stay back every single damn year. And what do? Fail.
And look,
every year.
They went and got Sam Hartman from Wake Forest.
And what that look like right now? Right. Exactly.
Why are they like this?
Because they're Notre Dame.
Okay.
They're Notre Dame.
Hey, and Colorado did a thing that proves that you're a good team in the Pac-12, which is struggle in Arizona. I don't know why that works. I don't know why it happens, but they got it done. Struggle in Arizona and then win, but they got it done. And
you see that watch that Shedeur was showing off at the end,
brother. Apparently, the crowds have been taunting him. Where's your Rolex? So Shedeur was like, I got it right here.
Right here.
Don't worry about it. I got it for you. But Arizona State had them. It looked a little tough, but look, the win is the win, and they inch towards bowl eligibility.
Well, shout out to them. Unfortunately, my Missouri Tigers, they lost this weekend in a hell of a football game.
Did that text come in from Dave Hellman like you promised?
Hellman and I were texting during the entire game. Like, well, here's the thing we both agreed on: worst officiated game we've ever seen in our lives. There were 2 clapping penalties in the game. Have you ever heard of that penalty before?
I'm not gonna say what's on my brain right now. Just
of course
no.
You're not.
The answer is no.
Relax. So real quick, the idea is if an offense uses the clap to start their play,
yes,
the defense then cannot do that
because it's like simulating.
Yes.
Okay, got you.
And the referee, guess what the referee used? The term that he used to call the penalty,
brother.
Disconcerting signals was the term.
Very disconcerted. It's very disconcerted.
Me and Hellman like, this game is ridiculous. Worst officiated game. By the way, Jalen Daniels, fantastic.
He's very good at football.
He was so good.
Imagine if they could play a lick of defense.
A lick of defense.
LSU is so funny.
Robert Griffin was like, hey, I don't know about this whole LSU thing because they got 2 losses, but Jalen Daniels should be in the Heisman Trophy, race. He should be definitely a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate. So, there's that. But yeah, man, good weekend of college football. As always, I got to look ahead at the schedule, see what it's coming up this weekend.
We got time. We're coming back on the show.
We'll do that.
I think.
Later on this week.
Look, if the Rangers got to get some work done. If you want to hear more, get right. That's really what it is. Make sure y'all win so that we can get to the people.
Oh, that's right. That's the one I was missing. Oregon, Washington is this weekend. In Washington.
I will be in front of a television.
I know. If I say you're going to be Michael Penix going to be ready for that.
Wait, hold on. I might need to check the time. I've got a weekend wedding this weekend.
2:30. Oh, no.
I might have to be on the road. Don't worry. It's fine. It'll get consumed.
Final call next on the Get Right.
Coming up Tuesday morning on Sean and RJ, Jerry Jones addresses the mess in San Francisco at 8:30, and Choppy gets you ready for Rangers Game 3.
Boches team's on fire.
It's Sotolo Tuesday on The Fan.
Hi, this is Gavin.
aren't traded on the stock market and in most cases are very exclusive. Examples could include ownership of apartments or nursing homes, dental practices, solar farms, you name it. Why do so many billionaires invest into private equity? Because of historically low correlation to the stock market and historically higher returns. If you have a goal with your portfolio but aren't there yet, call Trajan Wealth today. Call 469-579-3500. 469-579-3500.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. May require accreditation.
Jerry is a Tolo.
Let me say this to the turn it on, leave it zone. And let me say this to the one that just turn it on when old Jerry's up.
Turn it on, leave it on, leave it on, leave it on. Your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
Final time here on the Get Right. We're Reggie KG on 105.3 The Fan. Really appreciate you having joined us during our 3 hours tonight here on your home of the Cowboys and Texas Rangers. Reg and I will be off tomorrow night as the Rangers look to clinch a trip to the American League Championship Series.
I mean, look, if we were on tomorrow night, you wouldn't be listening anyways. You'd be paying attention to the Texas Rangers. And you probably don't. Look, you want to hear the Hall of Famer, Eric Nadel. You want to hear Matt Hicks. You want to hear Jared Sandler. So we will make way for that very important radio programming. And hopefully they'll be on to the LCS.
Shout out to the G-Bag Nation. They will be at Globe Life Field tomorrow for their broadcast beginning at 2 p.m. And, of course, that will lead you into Texas Rangers baseball. Nathan Eovaldi takes them out for the good guys as they look to clinch a trip to the American League Championship Series. If they win tomorrow, they will await the winner of the Astros and the Twins Division Series. That series tied at 1 game apiece. Appreciate Levi Weaver of The Athletic, Major League Baseball, for joining us via the Boomer Jack's Bar and Grill hotline. If you missed anything during our 3 hours tonight, make sure you hit the rewind button on the Odyssey app, or you can go to 105throughthefan.com, hit the Get Right podcast page, and you can listen to any show, any segment, anytime on demand. So final call on the Get Right before we get out of here on this Monday night. Shout out to the Atlanta Braves as they get the win in their National League Division Series to even up their series.
Yeah, one apiece.
At one apiece.
And look, they went and got it. They got themselves in a hole, and they were like, all right, let's do what got us here. Hit this ball really far.
Yes, a lot. At one point, they were getting no hit in that game. Zach Wheeler was dealing for the Philadelphia Phillies, but the Atlanta Braves win 5-4 to tie that series at 1 game apiece. They used 2 runs in the 7th. Actually, they got the first run in the 6th, 2 runs in the 7th, and 2 runs in the 8th to get it done. The big blow was Austin Riley in the 8th inning, 2-run home run that gave them the lead for good. So the Braves win that game. Braves won 104 games this season. Good gracious.
I was always wanting the series, and look, this is an opportunity to get more of Phillies, Braves. I feel like I'd have been kind of sick seeing a team that had played so well in the Braves go out sad like that. And obviously like a 2-0 lead or an 0-2 in that instance in the from the perspective of the Braves is not something that is entirely insurmountable, and it's not something that would be a death knell to their season. But it really would stink. I was reading a piece in the Ringer about just the entire monumental nature of this season from the plate for the Braves, and it really would stink to have a season of that caliber completely washed out as soon as they hit the postseason.
Best team in baseball this season have been the Atlanta Braves,
and one of the best hitting teams. What was the talking about since the Murderers Row Yankees?
Yeah,
it's in 27.
Historic offense, the likes that we have not seen since the 1920s. Led Major League Baseball with 300, or tied for the Major League lead with 307 home runs as a team this year. Just incredible play for them. Speaking of the NL Division Series, the Arizona Diamondbacks right now are up 4-2 in their division series game number 2, as they're looking to take a 2-game lead over the Dodgers. Going into the bottom of the 8th. Diamondbacks up 4-2 there.
And the Diamondbacks got out of a little bit of a jam there when they were still up 4-1. The Dodgers loaded them up and were only able to get one across in that moment. So that thing could have really flipped up. But yeah, no, they have an opportunity to have a commanding 2-0 lead in that NLDS. Right? Is that the right descriptor? Commanding?
Yeah, because they whooped the Dodgers in game 1, 11-2. And they're looking to back that up with a win tonight. That would be really disappointing, though, if the Dodgers are not able to get to the National League Championship Series after winning 100 games this season with, again, one of the best offenses in all of baseball with Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and company there. That would be extremely disappointing for Dave Roberts and his ball club if they are not able to get to the National League Championship Series there. So. Good baseball on tap again. Rangers take the diamond tomorrow. Nathan Eovaldi will be the guy on the bump for the good guys to try and send them to the National League Championship Series. As we continue the final call here on the Get Right, shout out to the Green Bay Packers. Actually, the Raiders, my bad. Raiders win 17-13 on Monday Night
I thought you were going to
Football.
say shout out to the Green Bay Packers for throwing an interception to get rid of their chances to win that game late.
And Jordan Love threw a pick to end that game as the Raiders escape with a win there.
Have you decided how you feel about Jordan Love?
I'm not sold on him yet.
Okay.
He's got, 6 interceptions in his last 3 games, so turning the ball over a little too much for my liking at this point, but still time for him to get it figured out.
You know what's funny? We talked a lot about how the AFC was going to be like the place where all the good teams were, and the NFC is going to be so-so. Looking at it right now, do you still feel the same way about that?
It's been a little disappointing so far in the AFC. But I think for Kansas City, Buffalo, who lost to Jacksonville this weekend, Miami.
And then who after those 3 do you still feel good about?
I'm not too great on Baltimore after they gave it away to Pittsburgh.
Which is crazy because in that game, Baltimore, if you watched the game, Baltimore was so clearly better than the Steelers.
Yeah.
They just dropped the ball like 7 or 8 times. 3 of those felt like surefire touchdowns.
Maybe Cincinnati's starting to figure it out.
Okay.
After what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase did this weekend.
Man, the Colts lost Anthony Richardson for a period of time.
And that's wild because they just got Jonathan Taylor back, but Zach Moss was incredible for them. Gardner Minshew.
That's the funny thing with the Colts is like they get him back. They spend a whole bunch of money to make sure that he has an extension. Zach Moss has been good in that starting role.
Yeah.
And like I imagine that the running backs don't matter crowd are looking at that and they're just like losing.
That's why you don't pay Jonathan Taylor there.
You had another dude doing the job. Why did you do that?
By the way, speaking of the NFL, the NBC telecast numbers from last night's game have been revealed. NBC's telecast of the San Francisco 49ers lopsided beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys averaged 26.1 million viewers on Sunday Night Football.
In the first quarter?
That's up 54% from last year's comparable Week 5 game. NBC has televised the 3 most watched NFL games this year. Viewership is up 14% season to date for NBC's Sunday Night Football. I thought that game was going to do 30 million. I really did.
I mean, Cowboys didn't help them out.
I guess so.
If that game's competitive down the wire, right? You start. I've at least subscribed to the idea of I'm like maybe Twitter isn't the best gauge, but like for me, it's like oh man, people are starting to say, hey, something's happening. You feel that buzz, and then you're like, let me go tune in. And you didn't get anywhere near that from that game because the Cowboys didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
No, they did not. Appreciate all of you who joined us tonight on the Get Right with Reggie KG. Appreciate Ross and Chris. Thank you, gentlemen. Chris, you're well on your way, sir. Appreciate you on this Monday night. And looking forward to working with you more, man, for sure. For my partner, Reginald Atatula, my name is Kevin Gray. This has been the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 through the Fan. I'm going to say it right now.
Uh-oh.
We'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. KG put in the call for the Rangers to take down the Orioles.
We'll talk to you Wednesday.
All right, y'all be easy. Peace.
DFW's #1 Cowboys podcast. 1.2 million downloads and counting. Love of the Star with top insiders Brian Broaddus and Bobby Bell on Odyssey or wherever your top podcasts are found.